It all started the day the world fell, after humanity's greatest heroes were defeated by the invaders. Amid the tragic ruins, only the last two warriors remained, struggling to breathe. The sacred swordsman Xenon Glorious, his heart filled with despair, wondered if they were truly the last survivors. The sorceress Aerith mournfully confirmed that all their other comrades had fallen. She lamented that not even their strongest allies could withstand the enemy's destructive power. Determined to keep fighting, Xenon told Aerith to just focus on supporting him. Drawing his massive sword, the swordsman was clearly preparing to go all out. Xenon aimed for a single precise strike. Aerith warned that even with everyone joining forces, they couldn't defeat it. But the warrior resolutely refused to back down. He began casting a powerful sword technique, channeling intense light energy into his blade. With razor-sharp focus in his eyes, he activated the final form of his combat style, radiating a terrifying, brilliant golden aura. Seeing that massive surge of energy, Aerith realized her companion had absolutely no intention of letting go. Xenon leaped forward with his blazing sword, charging straight at the colossal monster clad in black armor. The monster extended its giant hand, covered in red flames, to block the hero's blinding attack. Xenon gritted his teeth, enduring the horrific pressure from the enemy's flames, trying to burn him to ash. Despite encountering immense resistance, the warrior persevered, pushing his attack through the opponent's sea of fire. He struck the monster's solid armor, causing it to crack under the holy sword's power. Knowing he needed more power to overcome the enemy, Xenon desperately called on Aerith for support. The sorceress responded quickly and began casting support magic. Enveloped in a blue aura, Aerith generated witch platforms in midair to help the hero gain momentum and boost his attack speed. The monster brought down a horrific blow onto the ground, but Xenon successfully dodged by jumping high off the witch platforms. He used every last bit of his strength to soar into the sky, preparing his ultimate move. Letting out a battle cry, the warrior funneled all remaining sacred lightning into his blade of light. Letting out a battle cry, the warrior funneled all remaining sacred lightning into his blade of light. Aerith was awestruck by the terrifying power of the technique, believing they might actually have a chance to win. Yet, she panicked as she saw the monster still standing intact, completely unharmed after the hit. Even when facing absurd, downright freakish resistance, the swordsman still refused to stop, forcing himself to press the attack. Even when facing absurd, downright freakish resistance, the swordsman still refused to stop, forcing himself to press the attack. Worried, Aerith shouted a frantic warning that his body couldn't handle the strain if he kept pushing himself like that. Ignoring the warning, Xenon insisted on fighting and tried to rally every last drop of energy he had left. Realizing her friend's reckless determination, the sorceress wore a look on her face, showing she had made an extreme decision. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a mysterious item she had kept hidden. The young woman summoned a prison of light that completely bound Xenon, leaving him utterly bewildered. Aerith explained that he was the last hope to save the world, so she couldn't let him fall here. She said she was entrusting everything to him because she was certain he could change this nightmare fate. The sorceress then brought out a golden pocket watch. It was a magical relic passed down through generations in her family. A massive red magic circle appeared above them, as she warned there was no time left to explain. She asked Xenon to promise her that the next time they met, he wouldn't let those bastards win. The watch began to glow intensely while the hero demanded to know what she was planning to do. The sorceress said she was putting the fate of the entire world in his hands, but the swordsman begged to be released so he could keep fighting. The magic circle activated in front of Xenon, engulfing the hero in a powerful, mysterious beam of light. With tears welling in her eyes, she said goodbye to her companion, flashing a sad yet accepting smile. A giant beam of blue light shot straight into the sky, signaling the activation of the ultimate magic. The expanding energy destroyed everything around it during the casting process. After the blinding flash, the mysterious pocket watch fell onto the ruined, crack-riddled battlefield. The golden relic lay on the barren ground, completely damaged after the fierce battle. Aerith collapsed onto the ground, extremely weak, coughing violently as she tried to stay conscious after using the relic. Looking toward the horizon, the young woman wore a faint smile upon realizing the teleportation magic had succeeded. That was the mysterious ancient watch, a legendary artifact capable of altering reality and causing reincarnation. Xenon's soul drifted in endless space, still hearing the final words of hope from his friend. Aerith offered one last silent prayer, hoping he could change the chaotic reality of that world. Collapsing onto the ground with her body covered in wounds, the young sorceress prayed that her desperate wish for salvation would come true. Amid a massive explosion in her inner thoughts, she expressed her desire to conquer his heart in their next life. The scene shifted to a manor. The warrior woke up in a panic, yelling his companion's name inside a grand palace during broad daylight. Now with black hair, he stood up in confusion on a luxurious bed. Feeling a sharp pain in his head, he looked around the opulent noble room and realized this had to be the effect of the time travel relic. The young man looked down at his body, trying to process what had just happened to his reality. Right then, a young maid walked into the room looking slightly alarmed, asking if something was wrong. He ordered her to fetch his weapons so he could get back into the fight, but she assumed young Master Noah had just suffered a nightmare. Confused by being called a different name, he asked who she was, and the girl introduced herself as Lydia, his servant. The young man gripped his wrist, noticing the texture of his flesh felt entirely different. He was deeply shocked as he stared at his hands, realizing this definitely wasn't his original body. The young man wondered if he had possessed someone else's body or if something even more horrifying had occurred. He directly asked where they were and who he was, making the maid extremely anxious about his behavior. Lydia took a step back, suspecting he was talking out of his head due to a high fever causing delirium. Unable to hold his patience any longer, the young man grabbed her by the shoulders, demanding she immediately answer his direct questions. She revealed this was the Doskull Manor, and that he was the fourth son of the house, known as young Master Noah Doskull. When asked about the kingdom's calendar, she replied that it was currently the year 850. The warrior realized the relic had sent him back into the past, 10 years before the apocalyptic invasion began. Even worse, he had reincarnated straight into the dreaded Doskull family, sworn enemies of sacred swordsmen like him. Just then, a knock came at the door announcing someone had arrived, introducing herself as Selena. Another maid entered the room carrying a bowl, saying she had brought medicine for the young master. She mentioned that Lord Skull had prepared this dose out of concern for the young master's frail health. The young man stared at the bowl of medicine with deep purple eyes full of suspicion. He analyzed the red liquid and began to suspect there was something very wrong with the medicine's ingredients. With a quick slap, he knocked the bowl away, sending it shattering on the floor and startling the two maids. 3 house guards rushed into the room with grim expressions. Noah sharply asked them who they were. The captain of the guards said they heard suspicious noises and came to check. The long-haired guard observed the situation with cold, calculating eyes that were impossible to miss. He scolded Noah for wasting Lord Skull's kindness and warned he would bring a fresh dose right away. Noah mocked the word medicine, prompting the guard to threaten physical force if he kept insulting his master. The young man instantly dared the guard to drink the liquid himself, blatantly accusing it of being poison. Thanks to his past experience and power, he knew holy energy naturally repelled malevolent aura, and the color of this dose confirmed it was poisoned. Seeing he was exposed, the captain said he would be forced to make him drink. Noah let out an arrogant smirk, realizing their fake mask of loyalty had finally slipped off. The young man remarked that these guards would make great punching bags to help him get used to his new body's reflexes. With a provocative look, the warrior warned he'd be happy to play around a bit with these traitors. The captain ordered his 2 henchmen to step forward and restrain the young master by force. The 2 subordinates obeyed immediately, advancing on him under the worried gazes of the 2 maids. One goon lunged forward to grab Noah, but the young man was already set to counter. He dodged nimbly and delivered a powerful kick straight into the first guard's stomach. The goon gasped for air, flying backward and slamming hard against the wall. Feeling the weight of that strike, the second guard charged in a fit of rage, swinging his fist, but Noah ducked underneath with fluid grace. Taking advantage of the opening, He threw a sky-piercing uppercut, landing squarely on his opponent's chin. Seeing both goons collapse, Noah realized his new body was still weak. He couldn't take them down completely just yet. He decided he needed to investigate the motive behind this poisoning plot. As soon as they cleared up the mess, the captain ordered the remaining guards to draw their swords to finish it. No longer worried about harming Noah, the hero braced himself to get serious. But he was caught off guard when something bizarre popped up before his eyes. Information panels displaying the enemy's stats and abilities hovered in midair while they roared at him to surrender. Noah was astonished to see an appraisal window appear, revealing the attributes of those around him. He wondered where this rare skill came from, while nodding to himself that his opponent's skill level was remarkably low. Two guards charged in to attack, swinging their swords downward, but the young man ducked and dodged with effortless ease. One couldn't react in time, as he saw Noah's fist flying toward his face at terrifying speed. The young man delivered a fierce back-spinning kick, easily knocking his opponent to the ground. Capitalizing on his fallen enemy, Noah snatched the guard's weapon and gripped the sword tightly. The remaining goons saw this and lunged for a head-on attack. But Noah blocked the strike dead in its tracks with his new weapon. The young man skillfully pushed the traitor back, leaving the two maids awestruck by the scene. The captain offered a sarcastic compliment on his strength. Noah taunted him not to just stand there and make a real move already. Suddenly, Noah's eyes widened as he felt a dangerous and drastic shift occurring in his own energy. A deep purple mist began to seep from his body, exposing the terrifying presence of a dark energy core. This was the signature energy source of the dreaded swordsman belonging to the Dazkul house. Conversely, a holy core was the divine light source that originally belonged to his glorious lineage. Under normal conditions, these two opposing forces could absolutely never coexist within a single warrior's body. The captain laughed out loud upon seeing the dark core spinning wildly out of control, then decided to spill a horrific secret to the young master. He revealed that the previous medicine was actually a poison engineered to overload his dark energy. The villain explained that his combat actions had triggered the chaotic energy flow, which was set to destroy Noah from the inside out. Realizing the danger as his body neared collapse, the hero decided to gamble everything on a desperate bet for survival. He attempted something completely unprecedented, controlling two opposing energy flows inside his chest. At the same time, he used the purifying power of his holy core to suppress the violent surge of dark force. The captain mocked the hero's desperate effort and prepared to unleash his first dark technique. The villain charged like a blurry red shadow, launching an attack so fast it seemed to tear through space itself. Noah stayed calm and focused, tracking his opponent's movements despite being under crushing pressure. He raised his sword at the exact split second, blocking the ambush strike and generating a massive energy shockwave. The villain was stunned that the young master could react in time to an invisible attack powered by dark force. Enraged at being blocked, the guard called him a weakling and told him to know his place. Noah cast a cold glance, showing he wasn't provoked by meaningless insults. The young man swung his sword in a flawless arc, creating a radiant golden light shield around himself. His opponent retaliated by gathering a massive amount of dark aura and unleashing a destructive attack toward him. The two colossal streams of energy collided, creating a spectacular clash between golden light and red darkness. The guard began to feel the horrific pressure from Noah's assault and realized he was about to be completely overwhelmed. Noah seized the opening, slicing through the enemy's darkness with a swift, precise sequence of sword techniques. With an agile leap, he struck his opponent, tearing his clothes and inflicting a deep wound. Noah calculated his opponent's limits and knew he needed to finish the fight quickly before his own body gave out. The villain tried to maintain his arrogant facade, mocking Noah's obvious exhaustion. Noah smiled back, pointing out that his enemy's polite way of speaking had vanished, laying bare his desperation and panic. Infuriated by the young man's haughty attitude, the villain lunged, releasing a frantic flurry of attacks wrapped in thick dark aura. He screamed in rage, asserting that Noah could never predict or escape his presence. His stealth skill activated, leaving Noah surrounded by a swirl of red mist that completely blocked his vision and attempted to disorient him. The two maids watched anxiously from afar, unable to see the young master who had vanished into the dark attack. Noah focused entirely on his combat instincts, letting his aura shine bright right through the fog. The young man pinpointed his opponent's blind spot and delivered a precise slash right in the middle of the villain's hidden charge. A violent explosion echoed through the room, bringing the clash to a powerful, abrupt end. The guard collapsed to the floor, severely injured. Unable to fathom how the young master could crack his secret skill, Noah explained that even though he hid his physical body, his aura still leaked out because he relied way too heavily on a simple trick. Completely horrified, the villains slumped on the floor, exhausted, trying to comprehend the source of such overwhelming power. Noah held his sword firmly, calmly stating that even he hadn't fully grasped the limits of this new hybrid power yet. He pondered how seamlessly his old holy core and new dark core had blended together. He realized his power was now a perfect fusion of his original sacred core and his new body's dark core. The young man thought to himself that if he could master this unprecedented hybrid power, he'd have the ability to save the world once again. With a subtle smile, he silently thanked his departed friend for giving him a new spark of hope. The servants rushed over to the young man in a panic, checking if he was hurt and if they needed to call a doctor. Noah reassured them he was fine, but his attention was caught by a small winged black creature appearing at the bedroom window. It was a tiny messenger dragon holding an important sealed letter in its mouth. Lydia took the letter and explained it was an official summons straight from the head of the house, Lord Victor. The maid handed the sealed letter to the young master, reminding him that the patriarch wanted to confirm his participation in the succession war. Noah stared at the paper with a thoughtful expression. Knowing he needed to gather information on this succession struggle to plan his next moves, the hero decided to ask the two maids if they knew the details regarding the brutal conflict among the heirs. Lydia immediately confirmed, adding that every servant in the Daskul house was familiar with the rules of the trial. She explained that this conflict was designed to temper their bloodline, functioning essentially as a hunt for energy cores. In this contest, blood siblings would fight each other, and the victor would earn the right to claim the loser's dark core. Noah was horrified to learn that across generations, members of this family had slaughtered one another just to compete for the position of house head. The maid worriedly asked if the young master truly intended to risk his life entering such a ruthless trial. Flashing a mysterious smile, the young man confidently replied that she would know the answer soon enough. He recalled that in his past life, his glorious house was beloved by the people as a true symbol of divine justice. However, the Daskul family was the exact opposite, feared and hated for utilizing the taboo power of the dark core. Though shrouded in mystery, everyone knew the current family head, Victor Daskul, was considered the strongest swordsman in human history. Dressed formally and sharply, the young man headed toward the main doors of the Grand Hall. Determined to understand this place, he took a deep breath, focusing his own eyes to see the hidden truth behind this infamous criminal house. The young man strode into the Grand Hall, imposing and grand, formally declaring his presence as Noah Daskul. Walking down the red carpet, he observed his waiting siblings lined up right in the middle of the hall. Noah walked with slow, elegant strides, carefully analyzing the posture of every member of his new family. The eldest son of the bloodline was Damien Daskul, a heavily armored warrior carrying an extremely stern expression. Beside him was Julia Daskul, the eldest daughter, with long silver hair and a cold, distant demeanor. The second son was Keys Daskul, a young man with messy blonde hair who looked completely drained and indifferent. The second daughter was Eve Daskul, a black-haired girl who maintained a quiet composure. Suddenly, Noah's eyes flared with rage as he spotted the sibling who had plotted to destroy his health. It was the third son, Skull Daskul, the red-haired guy who had poisoned him. Julia quietly noticed the change in Noah, and the young man confirmed that he had finally found the root cause of his illness. When asked, the young man stunned everyone by declaring he would go all out to train his swordsmanship. Julia narrowed her eyes suspiciously, picking up on her younger brother's drastic change in attitude. Skull cut in with a sneer, mocking his plan to train and advising Noah not to waste his time. Noah shot back that a coward who didn't dare face him head-on should keep his mouth shut. Skull flew into a rage at his younger brother's arrogant reply, gritting his teeth as he threatened to end him. Eve stepped forward with authority, telling them both to shut up and warning that the time for bickering was over. A guard on the scene announced loudly that the powerful head of the family, Lord Victor, had just arrived at the hall. Heavy footsteps echoed on the red carpet as the feared head of the house advanced toward the majestic iron throne. The older children immediately closed their eyes and bowed their heads, demonstrating profound respect for the formidable family patriarch. The younger ones followed suit, showing the utter terror and absolute submission they all felt toward their father. Noah felt a chill run down his spine as he faced the overwhelming pressure emanating terrifying strength. He recognized the legendary black-armored swordsman whose achievements were renowned in his past life. This was the dreaded Victor Doskull, a 9-star dark swordsman, widely considered the strongest in the world. Seated upon the throne, the head of the house observed the gathered group and remarked with satisfaction that all the heirs were present. Victor crossed his arms imposingly and officially declared the start of the Succession War Conference. He locked his stern gaze on his fourth son and explained that this summons was to confirm Noah's intentions. The patriarch asked what the young man aimed to achieve with a frail body that had barely survived his recent illness. The young man let out a subtle, mockingly confident smile, proving he wasn't afraid of his father's authority in the slightest. With a decisive air, Noah spoke up loud and clear, declaring he would enter the war and emerge as the sole victor. Victor asked menacingly if his son was truly prepared to declare war on every candidate present in the room. Noah calmly replied that his father had misunderstood, leaving the powerful patriarch curious at such arrogance. The young man then clarified that his true intent was to declare war on absolutely everyone in the Grand Hall. Damien and Julia heard the declaration with pure disdain, while Noah merely viewed them as stepping stones he had to crush. The hero knew full well that the list of opponents he had to beat wasn't limited to his blood siblings. He showed extraordinary courage by including the patriarch Victor himself on the list of people he intended to surpass. Noah flashed a provocative smirk, blatantly making it clear to everyone that he wouldn't spare even his own biological father in this struggle. Infuriated, Victor unleashed a massive surge of dark aura, slamming straight into the hero with sheer, violent force. The pressure from the patriarch's dark energy was so intense, it began cracking the massive stone pillars in the hall. Debris fell from the walls as a terrifying wave of destructive power saturated the entire room. Despite enduring the crushing pressure, Noah bravely stood his ground. Recognizing the patriarch's truly terrifying strength, Victor glanced at him with contempt and asked if the young master genuinely believed he was capable of surpassing him. Noah smiled without a shred of fear and gave a concise, direct confirmation, yes, without hesitating for even a second. The father pressed further, wanting to know the real reason the young man sought such immense power. The hero replied earnestly that he needed the strength to ensure no one could ever take anything from him again in this lifetime. Hearing that selfishly ambitious answer, the head of the house burst out laughing, showing obvious satisfaction. Victor said he liked the attitude, adding that such greed was a highly admirable quality in a Doskull heir. The patriarch declared Noah was permitted to join the succession war and challenged any objecting heirs to step forward. The siblings reacted in various ways, while the ruthless Skull boiled with furious rage over the failure of his elimination scheme. The powerful patriarch commanded Noah to stay perpetually hungry for power, encouraging the heir to always seek out more primordial strength. The following day, the young man found himself in the manor's sunlit training yard, ready to begin a grueling regimen. With swift, precise movements, he slashed at straw mannequins, testing his blade's accuracy and speed. A mannequin was sliced cleanly in two, and Noah observed the result while the two maids stood at a distance, watching him train with admiring eyes. He felt his physical condition had improved noticeably, but he still knew he was only at a baseline level capable of fight. Due to the fusion of his two cores, he could use neither conventional light techniques nor his family's signature dark moves. The young man focused his attention on his hands, trying to unlock the secrets and potential of this hybrid strength. Noah realized he needed to hide the existence of his sacred core from everyone to avoid exposing his true identity. Suddenly, Julia appeared at the training grounds, observing the young man and remarking that he moved pretty well for someone who was just better than him. She commented that previously only Damien was their father's favorite child, but now Noah had caught the patriarch's attention as well. Julia approached the weapon rack, revealing she came to personally test her little brother's newfound combat abilities. With a serious expression, she grabbed a wooden sword and told her brother they were going to start right away. Giving Noah no time to react, she launched a surprise attack, catching the hero off guard with her aggressiveness. He was forced to leap back with lightning speed to dodge his older sister's fluid strike. Julia flashed a sly smirk, sarcastically asking if he really thought she came just to talk. Noah clicked his tongue in annoyance. Realizing he'd get no rest and had to take this powerful relative seriously, Julia charged in, unleashing a fluid series of slashes across the training yard. The hero used his training sword to block the strikes, capitalizing on the bout to gauge the current limits of his power. Julia picked up her attack speed, driving relentless, precise thrusts aimed at breaking his defense. She stomped her foot hard on the ground and threw a direct kick. Even though the protagonist blocked it with his sword, his body was still knocked backward. Julia remarked that her little brother certainly had talent, but his level was still far below acceptable. Noah checked Julia's information panel and discovered his sister was a formidable 7-star warrior. The hero smirked as he confirmed her impressive strength. Realizing defeating this opponent would be tough, the girl called his performance disappointing and charged in a fit of rage, unleashing a lethal high-speed slash. Noah's eyes widened, astonished by the absurd speed of the attack rushing straight at his body. With no other choice, he gripped his wooden sword tightly and activated his hybrid core's power, unleashing a surge of potent mixed energy. The young man blocked the devastating impact, parrying his sister's blade at the very last second amid a clash of energy. The hero had to rely on sheer physical strength to withstand the pressure. He realized his holy dark core was still extremely unstable. With a swift motion, he swatted her sword aside and countered fluidly, unleashing a powerful wave of blended light. Julia blocked the blow, but asked in surprise if this was the rumored failed holy dark core. She reminded him she'd heard rumors that his core had been defunct since birth. Intrigued, Noah realized this body had possessed the holy dark core all along, and everyone had assumed it was defunct. He concluded that since no one knew his power was a rare hybrid blend, fighting for real was no problem. So Noah charged forward, swinging a downward slash with his full hybrid energy glowing around the blade. The young man briefly lost focus, and Julia sarcastically noted he looked like he was thoroughly enjoying himself as she dodged with absolute ease and closed the distance, calling her brother's name in a calm voice. She asked if he knew the true goal of the succession war, and the young man confirmed he knew the answer. Julia said that would save time, as Noah's wooden sword was sent flying far out of the training yard. Cloaked in a thick, chilling dark aura, the girl coldly asked Noah if she could take his core. The hero's eyes widened in sheer shock and tension as he realized his sister's sudden, ruthless intent. Noah desperately shouted for Selena, demanding she bring his real sword, and the maid ran off to comply. The maid tossed the sturdy metal sword high into the air so the young master could defend himself in time. Noah leaped up to grab the hilt, channeling full lightning power to counter his sister's momentum. A massive collision of red and purple energy erupted, causing the young man to groan in pain from the brutal impact. Noah gritted his teeth, struggling against the absurd physical force the girl was pouring into her blade. Julia kept executing fluid sword maneuvers, but the young man continued to block her strikes skillfully. He locked his purple eyes on his enemy's blade, searching for openings in Julia's combat style. The girl smirked and admitted her little brother had surprised her in a good way. She enthusiastically demanded he display more skill while continuing to press him with aggressive attacks. Julia backed off, leaping away and challenging Noah to see if he could withstand her next special technique. Taking a stance, the girl readied a special dark combat style known as the Dark Fire Sword Dance. Noah sensed the danger of that overwhelming attack and decided to use all his available energy to stop. Julia lunged, delivering a fiery red and black downward slash straight at the young man. The hero parried the blow in the final millisecond, triggering a massive explosion of red and yellow sparks. The violent clash between the two swords kicked up a gust of wind, forcing the two maids to shield themselves from flying dust. The girl took note of his defensive posture and provocatively asked if he planned to keep fighting with just one hand. She dared him to use both hands if he wanted to hold out against the incredible primordial force she was putting into this match. The male lead naturally leaned to the side, causing his sister to lose her balance as she overshot forward. Seizing the opening, he tightened his grip on his sword, preparing to strike. Yet, despite his brilliant reaction, Julia still managed to swing her sword behind her back in time to block. With a grunt of exertion, the young master used full force to push back his sister's powerful weapon, letting out a mocking smirk as he realized he had finally forced her to use both hands to defend. Even though he parried it, the strike's force still blew Noah back, sending him sliding across the ground at high speed. He gritted his teeth in frustration, feeling intense exhaustion and soreness after the fierce exchange with his sister. The young man broke his momentum, causing the stone tiles of the training yard to crack under his feet from the sheer impact. Julia looked at him in silence, with an extremely grave expression. Analyzing the current exhaustion of the youngest heir, Noah panted heavily, realizing that using the hybrid core's full power was barely enough to block that single move. The young warrior noted with concern that his hands were trembling violently from energy overload. He cursed silently that this was the physical limit his unstable hybrid core could currently take. Julia asked if he knew why Dazkul family members didn't kill each other right at the start of the succession war. She explained that weak dark cores developed slowly, so no one paid attention to weak heirs. The girl stated that harvesting a core before it reached a good level was useless, locking her gaze on her dark weapon. She added that Noah had blocked and countered her blow in a genuinely surprising manner. Shifting into a hostile stance, Julia declared that a core with that level of durability was already worth taking. Noah clicked his tongue in frustration upon realizing his sister was about to attack him with truly murderous intent. Julia charged forward, gathering dark flames on her blade to execute the 8th form of her combat style. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed out, commanding her to halt her attack immediately, cutting off the girl's lethal strike. An armored warrior named Kyle quickly stepped in, using his sword to block Julia's downward slash. Kyle yelled desperately, warning the girl that if she pressed that violent attack, Noah would be completely finished. Julia told him not to meddle in a core harvest, but he shot back that Noah's core was currently at a very low tier. Julia coldly replied that was impossible because her younger brother had just blocked her strongest hit. Meanwhile, Noah stood right behind Kyle with an exhausted face, gritting his teeth as he glared at his formidable opponent. Kyle explained that he had conducted an investigation per the Patriarch's request and confirmed that Noah's core was completely drained of power. He asked how a core, supposedly much stronger, couldn't even hold up against such basic limits. Noah was utterly spent as he tried to catch his breath after the intense showdown with his sister. Seeing his state, Julia sheathed her sword and conceded she might have misjudged the boy's true power. She explicitly warned her brother that she still intended to harvest his core in the future. The young woman challenged her brother to a real duel once he grew stronger and his power evolved. Noah flashed a confident smirk and told his sister he'd be looking forward to that real fight. As she left the training yard, Julia began to feel there was something very bizarre about Noah's abilities. Remembering their clash, she knew that attack was utterly impossible to parry for someone at such a low tier. She concluded suspiciously that her little brother was hiding his true combat potential. Julia chuckled softly, finding the whole situation incredibly intriguing and captivating, hoping Noah would grow in a very remarkable way. Meanwhile, enraged roars echoed from another corner of the manor. Skull flew into a psychotic rage, smashing a glass over his subordinate's forehead as resentment surged inside him. He couldn't accept that a weakling like Noah was allowed to join the Grand Succession War. He roared in bitter frustration because even he had never received that much attention from the patriarch in his entire life. He screamed that he would never accept this situation. A subordinate then cautiously approached and whispered a crucial secret into his master's ear. Upon hearing the news, Skull flashed a devious smirk, revealing he had just come up with a rather interesting idea. With crazy eyes, the villain swore he would savagely drag Noah out of this succession race. Back at the training yard, Kyle apologized for arriving late and formally introduced himself to Noah and the two maids. The warrior revealed that he had been officially assigned by the patriarch to serve as the young master's new combat instructor. He explained that the family ordered this training to make up for the time the young master spent bedridden. Noah activated his special appraisal skill to analyze the new instructor's power level in detail. He saw the man's stats were impressive and concluded his capabilities were more than sufficient. Kyle asked if they should begin training, but the young master hesitated upon noticing the man holding a sheet of paper. The warrior reached out, handing him a sealed letter and explaining it was a direct order from Patriarch Victor. Noah opened the letter and read it. This was his first official mission: investigate and eliminate the source causing the dangerous Scorpia phenomenon, an anomaly that attracted horrific monsters and could only be stopped by defeating the area's alpha monster. Noah smiled softly, realizing this risky mission might be the exact opportunity he needed. He planned to leverage the circumstances of this tough quest to evolve his power without raising suspicion. Deep in the forest, a guard stepped forward with a glowing sword, slicing down an insectoid monster that appeared in their path. Kyle took command of the unit, ordering them to maintain a brisk pace and clear out every creature in this dense forest. The soldiers quickly cleared the area while harvesting valuable materials from the monster corpses scattered across the ground. A few subordinates whispered mockingly, "Noah must be terrified right now since he's just a weak warrior." Kyle also silently wondered why the patriarch was paying so much attention to someone of such a low tier. Suddenly, a warning shout caught Noah and Kyle's attention, and both looked up at the canopy in surprise. They discovered a group of young children collapsed and lying completely unconscious on the forest floor. Noah asked what they should do, noticing the kids seemed affected by the local Scorpia phenomenon. Kyle answered that the mission was urgent, so they would carry the children along to avoid wasting more time. The warriors slung the kids onto their shoulders and continued moving swiftly deeper into the dark forest. Streams of purple energy slashed through the air as the atmosphere grew increasingly thick and abnormal. Giant ancient trees cast heavy shade, blanketed in toxic mist that severely obscured the group's vision. Noah warned that the dark energy concentration was spiking, meaning the boss monster was definitely nearby. Suddenly, sharp claws from a giant creature lunged down from the treetops, snapping branches violently. Everyone panicked, realizing the sudden appearance of the giant beast known as the Scorpia Scorpion. Kyle yelled frantically, ordering the soldiers to protect the kids and get them to safety immediately. The instructor warned that the monster's carapace was too tough, and they needed a tactical plan before engaging. The beast's terrifyingly glowing stinger raised high into the air, preparing to launch a destructive strike on the rescue team. Noah's eyes widened, and he shouted a desperate warning, telling everyone a lethal blow was coming right at them. The massive attack slammed into the ground with violent force, blowing soldiers away amidst a cloud of dense dust. One soldier was terrified by the monster stinger's absurd speed and scary power. The group felt despair, convinced Noah would be easily crushed since he only had 2 stars of strength. The giant monster began spewing toxic gas and thick acid toward everyone nearby. Noah stayed cool and activated his hybrid aura, channeling full energy into his blade. The hero charged at high speed to meet the giant scorpion's sharp claws without a trace of fear. He delivered a precise slash, repelling the monster's pincer in a burst of brilliant sparks. Kyle was impressed by his defense, but warned that the creature's true danger lay in its lethal toxin. The scorpion fired thick jets of dark green acid straight at the young master, executing midair acrobatic moves. The hero deftly dodged every corrosive splash. The aggressive beast attacked with its stinger, dripping massive globs of deadly venom onto the ground. Noah used spiritual power to block a direct impact from the high-speed downward stinger strike. The young man locked his purple eyes on the creature and decided to go all out to finish the battle quickly. He launched a devastating counterattack, blasting the opponent's stinger away with sheer power. A soldier praised the young master's incredible swordsmanship, even knowing his core was supposedly weak. Tension escalated as the group watched in horror as the monster's stinger completely regenerated. The scorpion charged endlessly, forcing the young master to fall back to dodge its strikes. Noah ran his fingers along the blade, channeling the fusion of his dual energy streams to empower his weapon. He gripped the hilt with both hands, readying a focused strike on the beast. The warrior leaped onto the beast's back, intending to slash right through the opponent's carapace. As he struck downward, Noah realized the monster's natural armor was too hard to pierce. The metal blade slid right off without inflicting real damage, merely striking sparks off the black shell. Noah gritted his teeth in frustration at the insect armor's absurd durability. Kyle watched the fight, curiously wondering how the young master had learned such flawless technique without an instructor. The young master called out to Kyle, demanding immediate backup, and the instructor quickly responded that he had his back. Noah asked his master to create an opening on the monster. Kyle took the order, promising to pull it off. The beast's terrifying stinger aimed at the instructor, who braced himself to take the violent hit. Kyle let out a battle cry, channeling his power to meet the giant scorpion's direct assault head-on. With his heavy sword, the instructor blocked and temporarily pinned the opponent's scary stinger. Noah recognized his master's excellent setup and dashed toward the beast's body, holding an item in hand. Building up momentum, the young man deftly leaped onto the opponent's back where its weak spot lay exposed. He landed squarely on the enemy's carapace, maintaining flawless balance. Noah pulled out the sharp, venomous spider fangs he had secretly collected early. Using all his physical strength, he plunged the acid fangs deep into the monster's armor. The fangs pierced right through the hard shell, creating deep, smoking cracks. The scorpion roared in agony as the concentrated spider venom began its devastating work. Seizing the opportunity, our protagonist leaped off the scorpion's back. A second later, the scorpion's massive body collapsed to the ground. Kyle asked if those were fangs from the monsters they had slain on their way in. He explained that the acid from those monsters was the only way to soften the enemy's armor. Kyle finally understood the young master's strategy and why he had gathered those items. The scorpion glared with its many red eyes, gearing up to lash out wildly in pain. The beast tried to slam its body into the ground to activate its skill. Massive blue magic circles appeared in the sky above the forest, ready to trigger. The master prepared to cast the third form of the shadow sword style against the enemy. He slammed his sword forcefully into the ground, unleashing a colossal surge of purple magical energy. A massive barrier rose from the ground, trapping the scorpion and preventing its escape. Noah smiled, realizing the trap was set, and that this was the perfect chance to finish off the beast. Jumping high into the air, the young man focused all the energy of his hybrid aura. Standing in an imposing posture, he began summoning his newly created holy demon style to deliver the final blow. Inspired by Julia, the hero decided to test out a new variation using the power of his hybrid core. Letting out a resounding battle cry, he activated Light Shadow Sword Dance to strike his terrified opponent. Noah plummeted like a brilliant shooting star, tearing through the air accompanied by a terrifying streak of purple and gold energy. The move collided with a monster with immense force, splitting its weakened armor right down the middle. The giant scorpion was completely obliterated, exploding into pieces and spraying corrosive green fluid across the battlefield. The soldiers watched the whole thing in sheer shock, unable to believe a two-star warrior possessed such terrifying power. Noah thought to himself that he was trying to imitate his sister's move, though he knew he still had a long way to go. The young man told them they did a good job and left Kyle in charge of clearing the area. The instructor asked where he was heading, and the young master replied that he needed to take care of a personal matter. The hero then left the group, heading off alone toward the deepest, darkest depths of the forest. Noah remembered that in this era, humanity had yet to discover the true source of mana outbreaks. However, He knew these phenomena were intentionally created using extremely powerful magical tools. The young man approached a giant ancient tree whose trunk emitted a mysterious, faint blue glow at its base. With a swift and precise slash, he carved an opening into the trunk to see what was hidden inside. Inside the trunk, the hero found a glowing ring serving as a catalyst for dark energy. Noah retrieved the magical item with a satisfied smile, confirming that he had finally found the device. Suddenly, a desperate scream echoed from the area where the soldiers and children were staying. Noah was deeply stunned to hear the cry, realizing something terrible was happening to his allies. Without hesitation, the young man spun around and sprinted at full speed back to the rescue team's camp. When he arrived, he saw the children collapsed on the ground, dangerous green energy radiating around their bodies. A soldier ran toward him, shouting at the top of his lungs that the monsters in the forest were acting strange. Noah dropped into a defensive stance and drew his weapon. Sensing a massive hostile force rapidly closing in on the area, a massive horde of wild monsters burst out from every direction, completely surrounding the clan's warriors. The swarm of insects charged fiercely, forcing the group to fall back into a defensive posture to protect the wounded. The young master activated his gold-purple battle aura, preparing to intercept the first wave of attacks. Kyle showed up right on time, swinging a powerful blow to support Noah's dangerous position. The instructor halted the monster's momentum in its tracks. As the soldiers cheered in relief after being saved, Noah sternly ordered them to hold their ground, so he could buy time to figure out what was going on. He turned his attention to a mysterious necklace worn around the neck of one of the unconscious kids lying on the ground. Noah realized this item was draining the victim's magical energy, a ruthless method that had wiped out his clan in his past life. Kyle warned that the monster horde was too overwhelming and they couldn't hold out much longer. The hero decided to use his hybrid core to interfere with the item's flow and track down the person controlling the magic. He touched the mysterious necklace, making his powerful spiritual energy resonate with the object's magic. Noah closed his eyes, focusing entirely on tracing the power vibrations commanding the monster horde. He pinpointed the location of a red-eyed masked man hiding in the shadows, gloating in triumph. Having located him, the young man told his allies he'd be gone for a moment and ordered everyone to protect the kids at all costs. Noah flashed like lightning across the battlefield, slicing through the wolves and goblins, trying to block his path. He sprinted deep into the forest, tracking the controller's magical signature at a terrifying speed. He looked like a blur of light gliding through the dark forest landscape. Noah came to a halt in the middle of a clearing and called out for the hidden enemy to reveal himself immediately. Suddenly, the masked man leaped down from a treetop, swinging his sword in an ambush. He leaped to the side, dodging the attack. Both warriors stepped back, keeping their guard up while the intruder eyed Noah with suspicion. The villain was surprised Noah could sense his presence and admitted he was indeed the rightful heir. Noah demanded to know who ordered the ambush, but the masked man refused to talk. The young hero flashed a provocative smirk and declared he'd force his opponent to spill everything he knew anyway. They lunged at each other, trading lightning-fast sword strikes in a high-speed clash. The attacker was astonished by Noah's overwhelming power and wondered if it came from the Black Core. Noah replied mockingly that even he didn't fully understand how his power worked yet. The hero took a stance, radiating a mixed aura as the attacker tried to analyze Noah's mysterious abilities. The villain channeled energy into his sword and decided to activate the second form of the shadow style. The villain utilized flying sword techniques, summoning multiple dark energy blades around himself. He commanded the red projectiles to fire, hurling them at high speed to press and strike the hero. Noah stayed calm, deftly dodging the magical blades as they grazed past his body. Leveraging his fluid swordplay, the young man skillfully deflected the remaining slashes aimed at his chest. Feeling the force of the impact, Noah decided to trigger his appraisal skill to expose his rival's true identity. He discovered the enemy was named Darius, possessing a 5-star core, though the attacker taunted him for stepping back. The hero realized the villain's sword technique was quite weak and knew he just needed to close the distance to end the match. Noah charged forward, aggressively sprinting toward Darius while dodging every streak of dark energy. He deftly dodged another strike from the flank, continuing to narrow the gap to the culprit. With firm and nimble footwork, the young man pushed off the grass, accelerating even faster toward the opening to deliver a decisive strike. Noah leaped gracefully over his opponent's head, easily bypassing the villain's entire defense setup. Mid-air, he raised his glowing sword, preparing a direct strike to the enemy's exposed neck. Their blades collided violently, unleashing a terrifying spiritual pressure between the two warriors. The attacker laughed aloud under his mask, calling the young man foolish for using such an obvious, predictable move. The villain lashed the air with waves of dark energy, trying to keep Noah at bay with magical tentacles. Noah locked in and shifted to a special stance to activate the first form of the Holy Demon style. Gathering his hybrid power, he prepared a surprise attack at speeds far beyond normal. The warrior unleashed shadow light motion, darting forward like an untraceable purple blur. Darius panicked, recognizing the legendary move, and tried to defend against the sudden dash, but was already too late. He spun around in horror, trying to raise his metal sword, only to realize the young man's speed was absurd. Appearing right behind his opponent, Noah whispered, "You're too slow," and landed a heavy blow on his back. The villain groaned in pain, staggering from the severe wound he had just taken to his chest. He dropped his sword onto the grass and collapsed to his knees, utterly defeated and heavily injured after the battle. Darius angrily demanded to know how a weak outcast from the Da schoolhouse could know such a legendary move. Noah thought to himself that his hybrid core allowed him to perfectly recreate the secret arts of both lineages. He knew that mere imitation wasn't enough. The true potential of this mixed power would only unfold with time. The young man understood that once he fully mastered this hybrid strength, he would become the strongest warrior in the world. Noah pointed his blade at the villain's neck and demanded to know who ordered the whole ambush. Darius spat back with venom, telling the boy not to celebrate so soon because the battle wasn't over yet. Without hesitation, the attacker pulled out a mysterious potion bottle and quickly gulped down the strange green power liquid. Noah watched the scene suspiciously, noticing that the culprit's spiritual energy was starting to shift. Darius's body began swelling grotesquely, cracking the ground beneath him as he shrieked in pain. The young man leaped back, horrified by the brutal mutation transforming the enemy's body. The attacker's face contorted into a monstrous visage with sharp fangs and ruthless eyes. Darius transformed into a giant demon, roaring in rage and releasing a crushing wave of dark energy. Noah watched the transformation in horror, realizing his opponent had sacrificed his humanity for power. The hideous monster lunged like lightning, throwing a devastating punch that shook the forest ground violently. The young master was forced to channel his entire hybrid power to raise his sword and block the beast's charge. The impact sent a massive shockwave radiating outward, sending debris flying and destroying the surrounding foliage. Noah realized with concern that his weapon wouldn't hold up if he kept blocking the beast's attacks. The monster Darius burst out laughing, daring the young man to see how much longer he could endure those lethal strikes. It hammered down with claws and crushing blows, trying to tear the young master apart at all costs. A deadly red glow emanated from the mutated beast's eyes, signaling it was about to draw on even more power. Giant claws sliced through the air with devastating red beams, trying to corner and kill the young man. Noah dodged the lethal strike by a hair, feeling the terrifying wind generated by the enemy's attack. The giant demon Darius charged with both fists raised high, preparing to crush the young man to death. Noah leaped high into the air, escaping the monster's grasp and barely missing the ground. Mid-air and upside down, the hero focused on the limits of his strength. Preparing to counter, he executed a perfect flip and landed in a defensive stance. Keeping his sword ready to block the next charge, Noah realized he couldn't keep dodging forever and decided to use a magical item to create an opening. With firm resolve, the young master tightened his grip on his hilt, preparing to trigger his trump card. Darius laughed hysterically, mocking the hero's mock weakness, and swooped down from above to crush him completely. The monster loudly proclaimed it would end the battle right now as it aggressively charged straight at the young man. The beast's massive hand came slamming down at high speed, about to crush Noah's body. At the very last second, the ring of absolute reflection that the hero had found began to glow brilliantly. A powerful pink hexagonal shield materialized, blocking the mutated monster's massive punch dead on. The magical barrier unleashed a terrifying reflective shockwave, blasting the giant demon Darius backward into the air. Noah flashed a confident smirk upon noticing the opening. Conscious that his hybrid core allowed him to reuse old techniques, the young man dashed toward the monster, hovering helplessly in midair. Pouring in all his spiritual energy, he locked his sights onto his defenseless opponent in the sky. Preparing to unleash his most destructive move, Noah began summoning his potent holy demon style. Concentrating a colossal amount of power into his sword, he raised his weapon, producing a massive column of gold-purple energy that tore through the dark forest sky. The young man activated the move Dual Pole Single Blade, letting loose a massive vertical slash. The radiant beams struck the monster directly, cleaving its body in two and causing a horrifying explosion across the battlefield. Noah landed smoothly on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief, having been saved at the last second by triggering the magical ring. He analyzed the ring of absolute reflection, realizing the relic had the power to neutralize any attack and knock the attacker back. The young hero decided it was time to head back and check on Kyle and the other soldiers. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Da Schoolhouse continued to fight valiantly against the giant swarm of wild monsters. Kyle gritted his teeth, pushing his physical limit to the absolute edge, muttering to himself that he was reaching his limit. A giant goblin took advantage of the exhausted instructor, raising its spiked club to deal a finishing blow. The warrior despaired, believing he was about to take a fatal strike from the out-of-control beast. However, against all of Kyle's expectations, the monster's club suddenly stopped mid-air right before hitting him. The man opened his eyes in confusion, unable to comprehend why every creature in the forest had suddenly stopped attacking. The soldiers looked at one another, both relieved and astonished as they realized they had miraculously survived that horrific battle. Noah approached, strolling casually through the clearing and asking everyone point-blank if they were all right after the clash. Kyle confirmed, still trembling, that everyone had narrowly escaped the brutal battle. The young man explained that he had slain the monster controller, leaving the instructor shocked to learn there was a summoner involved. Noah confirmed the enemy was real, but added he still needed to find out who hired the mercenary to ambush them. The soldiers looked at the children still unconscious on the ground, though now free from the danger of the scorpion mist. The young master fell deep into thought, knowing he had to act fast to expose the true mastermind behind everything. Returning to the magnificent main estate of the Da School clan, the hero decided to launch his own secret investigation. Noah was infuriated thinking that innocent children had nearly died because of him, vowing to catch the mastermind behind the attack no matter what. He remembered that young Eve Da School served as the clan's main intelligence officer and might know something critical. The young man fixed his eyes with firm determination, knowing he needed to find solid clues before taking his next move. Just as he was about to step into the restricted area of the palace, Noah was suddenly barked at to stop by a firm voice. His blond brother, Keys Da School, stepped out to block his path, sternly warning him that he had no right to enter. The two brothers stared each other down in the outer courtyard, creating an immensely tense atmosphere between the clan's heirs. He recalled the information revealed by the maid Lydia, confirming that Eve knew the identity of the mastermind. The hero radiated a powerful, solemn battle aura and commanded his blond brother to get out of his way. Keys replied that he was Eve's bodyguard and couldn't let someone giving off such dangerous hostility pass through. The blond youth roared in anger, plainly declaring that he didn't trust Noah and would stop him at all costs. Regretting the situation, Noah tightened his grip on his sword's hilt, preparing to use force against his own brother. The hero drew his metal sword and resolutely declared he would use force to push through if necessary. Keys drew his sword as well, accepting the challenge while grunting in frustration at having no other choice. Keys charged like lightning, executing a fluid sword technique directed at the hero in the outer yard. Their blades clashed fiercely, sending a shower of sparks flying between them. Noah endured the intense physical pressure of the strike, keeping a sharp gaze locked onto his opponent's movements. With a quick movement, the hero shoved Keys back, forcing him to retreat several steps toward the center of the courtyard. The two warriors briefly kept their distance and eyed each other, preparing for the next exchange. Keys channeled red magical mist in his left hand, gathering the power of earth and stone elements. He slammed his hand hard onto the ground, unleashing a stone spear sword technique, creating massive sharp stone pillars thrusting out from the earth. Noah flinched at the speed at which the thick, sharp rock formations surged toward him. Noah used his metal sword to block and deflect his opponent's rock projectiles. He shattered the stone pillars with swift slashes, demonstrating outstanding defensive skill. Keys activated crushing stone fong magic, creating a massive, heavy stone weapon in his hands. Noah was taken aback by the size of the stone sword his opponent was swinging so effortlessly. Keys spun around lightning fast, swinging the giant stone weapon toward the hero with a devastating strike. The young master defended himself, raising his holy sword to block the terrifying impact of the giant stone blade. They entered a frenzy of continuous attacks, making the entire courtyard tremble under the sheer power of their strikes. The blonde youth maintained a cold gaze, demonstrating absolute concentration on his complex combat strategy. Keys executed rapid spins and slashes, forcing Noah to constantly step back to avoid taking a direct hit. Noah realized his opponent had a complex attack chain and decided to use his appraisal skill to analyze him. The status display showed that Keys Dashkul possessed formidable attributes at the 8-star level. The young man noticed his own core was weaker, but his opponent compensated by blending magic with sword technique. Noah decided to tackle him head-on, activating his holy demon style to unleash his full mystical power. He gathered his power and launched into the light-shadow sword dance, radiating a brilliant golden-purple light. A massive explosion of hybrid energy erupted across the courtyard, blasting Keys backward with extreme force. His opponent stood in utter shock as he felt the terrifying power radiating directly from the young man's demon core. Keys slid backward from the violent gust created by the collision of their magical techniques. Shocked as he was by that level of power, he quickly regained his composure and prepped his dark lightning style to unleash his fastest strike. The blonde youth lunged forward with the instant movement of dark lightning, black sparks crackling all around his blade. Noah recognized the style, remembering how useful it was in combat thanks to what he had picked up during training. He recalled Instructor Kyle teaching him the key traits of the clan's technique, and the hero braced himself. He knew his opponent's attack was focused purely on absolute speed. As Keys realized Noah knew the theory, the blonde youth let out a dry chuckle and warned him that knowing the theory was a far cry from facing the actual strike on the battlefield. Without hesitating for a second, Noah dared his opponent to hit him with everything he had. Keys swung his sword, firing off a volley of red and black light. The entire courtyard was engulfed in a storm of electric slashes, completely blinding Noah's field of vision. Noah dug deep into his physical strength, trying his best to keep up with his opponent's lightning-fast movements. Letting out a loud roar, the hero pushed his absolute limits to dodge and parry the incoming slashes. A massive clash of electrical energy erupted right in the center of the courtyard, lighting up everything around them. A blinding flash and a thick curtain of dust shrouded both warriors, putting an end to the frenzy of attacks as a powerful gust of wind blew away the dust settled in the courtyard, exposing the sheer devastation left by the fierce duel. Noah emerged from the smoke, straining to hold his defensive stance after taking the full brunt of the assault. His clothes were shredded and ruined from the sheer force and precision of the lightning strike. He let out a painful groan, feeling the severe physical exhaustion brought on by his enemy's technique. Noah was stunned to realize that not even his light shadow sword dance could completely halt the attack. The young man concluded that stolen techniques copied from other warriors had a clear ceiling on how much power they could unleash. He understood he urgently needed to develop his own original techniques using his hybrid core. Suddenly, a resolute voice commanded the duel to stop immediately, cutting the courtyard confrontation short. Young Eve Doskull appeared at the doorway, regarding both warriors with a calm, serious gaze. She decided to invite them into her luxurious living room to get to the bottom of the real motive behind the whole conflict. Once both of them had settled onto the sofa, the young lady asked them point-blank why they were going at each other's throats. Keyes explained that he acted solely to protect her, claiming Noah had shown up with clear, aggressive hostility. Noah asked out of curiosity why someone as important as her in the Doskull clan would even need a bodyguard. Eve calmly replied that she wasn't much of a physical fighter and preferred to keep her distance from combat. Keyes pressed Noah on why he had come to visit, reminding him that her genius brother had no interest in vying for the throne. The girl quickly deduced that her younger brother wanted to find out who was behind sending assassins after him. The young man was taken aback and asked how she managed to guess so quickly. Eve flashed a mysterious smile and said there were very few things in this world she didn't know about. She mentioned she genuinely wanted to help her dear brother, but stressed that this piece of information came with a steep price tag. Noah immediately realized this was a trade and asked her directly what she wanted in return. The girl asked if he knew about the legendary Endless Library, sparking the young master's curiosity. The place was a colossal labyrinth of unknown scale, hiding secrets that had never been brought to light, and while many adventurers had built a nearby city, exploring its deeper floors was ridiculously dangerous. Eve requested that Noah bring her back a specific relic from deep within called the Abyssal Tome. Noah recalled that this very book had revolutionized magical theory as he knew it in his past life. He remembered that this knowledge had saved countless lives during the horrific war against the invaders. The hero figured that securing this relic earlier than expected might just be the key to rewriting his tragic future. Noah accepted the offer without a second thought and assured her that he would bring the mysterious book back for his sister. The two heirs sealed the deal with a firm handshake, officially kicking off their partnership from that moment on. A short while later, a luxurious horse-drawn carriage sped toward their mission destination. Noah was accompanied by two maids who looked pretty hyped for the long journey. They finally arrived at Grandio Arenum, the city housing the Grand Library Tower. The young man stepped down from the carriage and began strolling through the bustling cobblestone streets of this new place. Noah knew the interior was such a complex maze that he would need an experienced guide to keep from getting hopelessly lost. He scanned the surrounding crowd, keeping an eye out for someone who knew the place inside out. And as the young master wove through the narrow alleyways, he caught the eye of a few shady locals. The city's imposing, ancient architecture stood out, highlighting the immense historical weight of the region. Meanwhile, back at the main estate, Eve was lounging comfortably on the sofa, sipping her tea. The clan butler opened the door, announcing that an important guest had just arrived to see the young lady. Another heir of the clan sauntered into the room with slow steps, exuding a calculating, supreme confidence. The newcomer flashed a smirk, revealing he was there to ask a few questions about Noah. Eve observed her brother with a calm, expressionless gaze, waiting to see what his next move would be. The two of them sat comfortably on the living room sofa, locking into a quiet dialogue dripping with thick clan tension. The young lady remarked with a touch of disdain that him visiting her private quarters was a rare sight indeed. Skull admitted he had come to ask a favor and borrow his sister's vast knowledge. He noted the absence of her bodyguard, and she revealed that Keyes had been dispatched on an urgent mission assigned by the clan head. Skull let out a sinister smile as he realized his sister was left completely unprotected at the moment, unbothered in the slightest. Eve took a sip of tea and asserted that her other bodyguards were more than capable of handling things. The man praised her composure and asked her directly what she knew about Noah's recent moves. He said he wanted to figure out the source of the power Noah had displayed when fighting on equal footing with Julia. Skull confessed he was utterly obsessed with uncovering the secret behind his brother's sudden jump in power. The villain added that Noah had even beaten his attackers, catching the young lady off guard with this piece of news. The elegant woman set her teacup aside, keeping a neutral stance against his provocations. Eve firmly declared that she wouldn't reveal anything that could directly interfere with the succession war. She knew that if she showed favoritism, toward one brother. The other candidates would immediately move to take her out of the equation. Skull's tone shifted as he menacingly asked if she was seriously planning on refusing to cooperate with him. The young lady shot back by asking if he had anything valuable enough to make up for the risk of her losing her position. He let out a dark chuckle and echoed the word compensation, as if plotting something sinister. He warned her that she would understand the price soon enough, right as a dark, ominous shadow materialized directly behind her back. While the conspiracy was unfolding back at the estate, a bright sunny day shone down on the bustling city of Erin. Noah kept walking with razor-sharp focus through the massive local market, ignoring the curious glances from the locals. The young man headed straight for his goal, dead set on finding the answers he needed for his trek. Noah pushed open the wooden door of an antique shop, a soft bell tinkling to announce his arrival. The young man took in the interior with a sense of nostalgia, remembering that he had finally returned to this special place in his new life. Osrek, the magic shop owner, popped up and warned the young man that the shop was currently closed. Noah let him know he wasn't there to buy anything, but rather to hire him as an official guide to explore the endless library. The merchant turned him down, saying he was done working as a guide, but the young man insisted since he was the most knowledgeable guy around. Osrek reacted with extreme annoyance, telling the young master not to make him laugh with such ridiculous boasts. Noah found this reaction odd, knowing full well how much this man used to be obsessed with that mysterious labyrinth of knowledge. The young man asked point-blank if there was a hidden reason why he had given up his job as a local guide. Osrek slammed his hand on the desk in anger, barking that this wasn't something the boy could solve or help. The merchant took a deep breath, looking as though he were carrying a painful burden of emotional trauma and resentment. I apologize for my rude behavior earlier. I've been extremely stressed and short-tempered lately, Osrek confessed. Suddenly, the soft ring of the door bell chimed again, signaling the unexpected arrival of someone else in the shop. Noah was stunned to see that the newcomer was none other than his sister, Julia. She asked if he was doing all right, the beautiful silver-haired woman waving with a faint smile on her lips as she stepped into the shop. She explained that she had spotted him on a mission and decided to tail him. Even as Noah realized he was well and truly caught, the merchant panicked upon recognizing Julia, one of the kingdom's most famous swordswomen. He grabbed Noah by the shoulders and called him Kid, which the young man quickly corrected, stating his real name. The man instantly flipped his attitude and took the job on the condition that Julia join the expedition as well. Noah grew suspicious of this sudden change of heart, realizing the man definitely had a personal stake in accepting the mission. The merchant told them to follow him and led them to the deepest part of the shop. They stepped into a dimly lit room where a purple-haired woman lay resting on a bed. Osrek approached his beloved wife with hollow eyes and began recounting the horrific event that had taken place a month ago. He revealed that his wife had been cursed after being attacked by a giant red-armored monster inside the labyrinth. The man explained that the monster's curse plunged its victim into a deep slumber until they drew their final breath. Noah reasoned that the best fix was to defeat the monster, but the guide lamented that every single adventurer had failed. Osrek dropped to his knees, begging Julia to use her extraordinary strength to venture into the labyrinth and save his wife. Julia agreed to help on the condition that Noah actively take part in fighting the terrifying monster as well. She rested her hand on her younger brother's shoulder, explaining that she wanted to witness his fighting style firsthand inside the labyrinth. The young man instantly realized his sister still had her doubts about the true origin of his new combat abilities. With no way out, Noah accepted the terms and told the merchant they were ready to start the mystical rescue mission. The man was overjoyed, looking full of confidence and determination as he swore to guide them as safely as humanly possible. The trio assembled in front of the colossal library tower while Julia checked to make sure her other assignment was in order. She locked her eyes on Noah and candidly admitted that she was insanely curious to uncover her brother's secrets. She recalled their earlier clash, sensing that her younger brother had tapped into a different kind of energy than the clan's usual dark core. The girl warned that he would have to spill the truth inside the labyrinth, and Noah noted how sharp she was for picking up on the subtle difference in his power. The merchant showed up hauling a massive backpack stuffed with supplies and apologized for being late. Noah took the lead and told everyone to set off immediately toward the grand structure's main entrance. The group stepped into the main hall, which was packed with adventurers and warriors from all over. The guide registered their team at the front desk and warned that the three of them would have to rely heavily on each other once inside. Local warriors whispered in pity as they watched the trio and Osrek, convinced they would be the next victims claimed by the place. The man led them to a giant blue stone gate, announcing that this was the true entrance to the Endless Library. He heaved against the stone structure with considerable force to kick off their dangerous expedition. The gate creaked open, revealing a powerful, mysterious surge of blue energy pulsing from deep within the labyrinth. The trio stepped through the mystical passage led by their guide, who remained on high alert for any sign of trouble. The young man took in the vastness of the place with its endless towering bookshelves, confirming the truly astronomical scale of the site. Julia smiled in amazement, commenting that now she fully understood why hiring an experienced guide was a must. The grand architecture, with its floating staircases and intricate walkways, seemed to form an endless maze. Noah walked along calmly, but his eyes suddenly widened as he spotted something truly shocking on the tower wall. He stumbled upon an ancient mural depicting the hero of light facing off against a terrifying invasion of red monsters. The young man was blown away, concluding that there were secrets hidden within this labyrinth tied directly to the future of the world. Noah analyzed the mural, focusing on finding any hidden clues that could help him defeat the invaders when the time came. Julia flashed a confident smirk and warned that it was time for them to press deeper into the maze. The young man confirmed their goal, reminding everyone that their main priority right now was retrieving the legendary book of the Endless Abyss. As they reached the first floor, the guide explained that the rarest and most forbidden books were all tucked away on the deepest levels. Osrek revealed that this relic was banned in the neighboring kingdom and deduced it was almost certainly kept around the 20th floor. Noah found this amusing, remembering that this was the absolute deepest floor any adventurer had ever managed to reach. The team moved in formation and stepped up to a large blue magic circle drawn in the middle of the stone floor. They stood atop the mystical magic circle to prepare for their descent into the lower floors of the library. Out of nowhere, dozens of orcs decked out in armor and shields materialized from thin air, blocking the adventurer's path. The guide explained that these beasts always guarded the way down to the next floor and asked if the young master could wipe them out. Noah calmly reassured him that he would take care of this low-level threat as he unsheathed his glowing sword. The young man lunged with terrifying agility, unleashing rapid golden slashes that tore the local monsters to shreds. He sheathed his blade with a swift, stylish motion, showing off his terrifying skill right in front of the guide. The corpses of the defeated enemies crashed onto the mystical library floor, sealing the young warrior's swift victory. Impressed by how easy he made it look, Osrek urged the young nobles that they needed to move fast toward their target. The party reached the 10th floor, and the guide demanded absolute secrecy regarding the hidden shortcuts. From that point on in the expedition, he manipulated a specific book on the shelf to trigger the library's secret passage mechanism. A large hidden doorway swung open, exposing a secret path that very few people knew how to use. The guide pointed to the hidden magic circle, explaining that this mystical tool was a fantastic shortcut. They gathered on the mystical circle, which began to glow brilliantly with rhythmic, powerful blue energy. The teleportation magic activated, engulfing the whole group in a massive pillar of light, completing their instantaneous travel. The intense magic light abruptly vanished, revealing their arrival in a fresh, quiet section of the tower. Noah shielded his face with both hands against the blinding flash generated by the teleportation process to the new floor. The guide revealed that they had bypassed multiple floors and were now at the transition point between the 19th and 20th levels. Julia stepped forward with a cocky grin, deducing that the next batch of elite monsters was bound to be right ahead. They arrived at a giant circular stone pit where an enormous blue magic circle was glowing ominously. A massive wave of dark energy surged out of the magic circle, signaling the instant summoning of the area lord. Dozens of dark, aggressive branches and roots burst from the ground, spreading an aura of dread throughout the area. A giant tree monster with multiple glowing red eyes emerged, revealing itself as the terrifying lord of this floor. The guide panicked as he realized this creature had evolved into a lord monster far more powerful than what he remembered. Osrek shrieked in horror, saying that clearing this beast would take several elite squads. But Julia brushed off his concerns with disdain. The young swordswoman chuckled mockingly, asking why the man thought she needed any help at all. She drew her sword with an arrogant stance, reassuring him that her personal strength was more than enough. Julia charged at high speed toward the giant tree monster, launching a swift direct attack. The massive beast retaliated by whipping its long, razor-sharp black branches to crush the intruder in a single stroke. The female warrior pulled off impressive acrobatic dodges, slicing through every branch, trying to block her path. She sprinted right along the enemy's roots, rapidly closing the gap to go for the main trunk. Julia delivered a precise sword thrust dead center into the monster, triggering a massive burst of dark energy. But while the strike kicked up sparks, it barely scratched the opponent's hard bark while its red eyes flared with pure fury. The young woman landed nimbly, admitting that this mystical creature's natural armor was indeed tough. Osrek screamed in desperation, warning that the wood was as hard as steel and that a lone swordswoman would never take it down. Suddenly, dozens of wooden tentacles erupted from the ground, completely surrounding and binding the female warrior's legs. Julia was completely pinned down by the monster's vines, which began constricting around her body with ruthless force. The lord monster tightened its wooden claws, preparing to crush its trapped opponent in one go. Worried by the dangerous situation, Noah made ready to step in and sprinted toward the fight to save his sister. The branches squeezed with maximum force, kicking up red sparks as they tried to break through Julia's physical resistance. The female warrior remained completely unfazed and activated the fifth form of the dark combat style, releasing fiery red flames. A burst of fire incinerated the vines, and she emerged clad in an imposing, mystical armor of black flames. Noah was utterly speechless seeing this powerful and rare elemental defense technique in action right before his eyes. Julia swung her sword dripping with black fire, gearing up to counterattack with the style's first form. The female warrior triggered the black fire sword dance technique, channeling all her fire energy straight into her weapon. The giant tree lord tried to react, swinging its massive branches to crush Julia with brutal violence. Cloaked in pure, fiery wrath, the silver-haired woman charged decisively toward the enemy's trunk. With explosive, lightning-fast slashes, Julia severed the wooden tentacles, turning the lord's defenses to ash. She built up momentum in midair and dove forward, aiming straight for the opponent's glowing red eyes. The female warrior let out a resounding battle cry as she unleashed a downward slash packed with all her mystical energy. A massive cascade of red fire and dark energy was unleashed, tearing through the air and destroying everything in its path across the hall. The devastating blow split the central lord's trunk right down the middle, triggering a violent explosion of steam and smoke. Julia landed with supreme swagger, declaring that her fire blade would never be stopped by something as trivial as steel. The guide pointed in absolute desperation, shouting a frantic warning as he realized the deadly encounter wasn't over yet. A sneaky tentacle quickly sprouted from the ground and coiled tightly around Julia's ankle, catching the female warrior off guard as dozens of dark roots rose from the soil and began completely enveloping her body. Julia realized plant monsters regenerated insanely fast, unless incinerated entirely in one go. She was dragged away by the vines and ultimately sealed completely inside a dark cocoon made of vines in the center of the hall. Noah clicked his tongue in annoyance upon hearing his sister summon the third form of her special technique. Inside the wooden cocoon, the young man sensed a disaster brewing and grabbed the guide's arm, yanking him out of the danger zone. He sprinted at full speed, dragging Osrek along in desperation as he yelled for him to run before the explosion hit. Inside the wooden cocoon, Julia's eyes flashed with a brilliant crimson glow, signaling the release of her ultimate trump card. A massive fiery explosion erupted, obliterating the cocoon and sending a terrifying shockwave of heat surging through the area. Thick red smoke blanketed the hall, while Noah and Ozrek ran at full tilt to escape the blast radius. The flaming shockwave swept through the entire corridor, throwing both adventurers face first onto the floor of the mysterious labyrinth. Noah pushed himself up, coughing harshly as he realized his sister's true intention was to incinerate everything to stop the monster from regenerating. Out from the ashes and red mist stepped Julia, standing triumphant after completely erasing the floor lord from existence. She calmly walked back toward her companions and asked if they should keep searching for the book. The guide watched the scene in utter disbelief and deep shock, completely unable to fathom how she had taken down that beast all on her own. Noah looked on thoughtfully, remembering that the black flame style possessed the highest raw destructive power. He recalled that while the technique burned through energy at an absurd rate, its raw power was undeniably unmatched in this world. The trio finally made it to the 20th floor, stepping into a vast new hall lined with giant bookshelves packed with ancient tomes. Noah focused his attention on the wooden bookcases, his eyes widening in shock as he spotted a very familiar title. The young man picked up the book in sheer excitement, exclaiming that he had finally found the abyssal tome. With their main goal wrapped up, Julia warned that they still needed to hunt down the mysterious monster that had cursed the guide's wife. Noah asked where it might be, and Ozrek explained that this particular beast usually roamed freely across this floor. A sudden metallic clatter shattered the quiet hall, instantly putting all three adventurers on high alert. A book tumbled onto a small tea table, flapping open to reveal an illustration of a powerful warrior on its page. The young man picked up the mysterious tome with deep suspicion, trying to figure out the true secret behind the drawing. Suddenly, a threatening whisper echoed out, declaring that it had found him. The pages of the mysterious book began flipping wildly, casting an eerie atmosphere over the dimly lit hall. Noah felt a crushing wave of hostility flare up directly behind him and reacted with blinding speed to dodge the incoming strike. He and Julia drew their swords in unison and dropped into a hybrid defensive stance, shielding the terrified merchant behind them. A terrifying warrior in gray armor with a monstrous, mutated arm stepped out from the shadows, revealing himself as the area lord of this floor. Ozrek pointed an angry, trembling finger, recognizing the creature as the very demon that had inflicted such horrible suffering on his wife. Noah stepped forward and drew his sword, dead set on starting this fight to put an end to the labyrinth's evil monster once and for all. Julia sternly ordered her younger brother to fall back, warning him that she would handle this dangerous, ironclad boss herself. She launched forward, propelled by a burst of her own black flame, shouting that she would take the lead in this assault. The armored warrior raised its monstrous claw, preparing to unleash an overwhelming counterattack aimed straight at Julia. Their weapons clashed violently, triggering waves of crimson fire that illuminated the surrounding bookshelves. Julia dug deep into her physical strength to hold her ground against the direct impact, but she could still feel the sheer, absurd force behind her opponent's swing. A massive shockwave blasted the adventurers backward, showing off the terrifying destructive power of this elite foe. The female warrior landed, skidding back across the floor and knocking over a long row of bookshelves. Impressed by her opponent's absurd physical strength, she struggled to her knees, coughing heavily from the blunt force as she worriedly concluded that a prolonged fight here would be absolute suicide. Julia ducked the impending danger, leaping at high speed through the massive bookshelves filling the hall. She tumbled and sprinted along the walls, channeling crimson flames onto her steel blade. Diving down from above toward the gray-armored foe, she unleashed a devastating vertical slash. The direct hit triggered a massive explosion of crimson energy, making the entire structure of the mysterious library shudder. A thick cloud of dust billowed out from the sheer pressure of the impact. As Noah and the guide watched the epic duel unfold, the young man was stunned to see the terrifying armored warrior block such a lightning-fast move with absolute ease. Julia flipped mid-air, resetting her stance as the aggressive foe closed in relentless pursuit. She landed on the stone floor, realizing her opponent's strength was leagues above any ordinary monster, and slammed her hand onto the ground, activating an orange magic circle to unleash the second form of her dark combat style. A massive, destructive vortex of red flame erupted beneath the monster's feet, attempting to burn it to cinders right where it stood. The guide assumed the battle was over with that hit, but Noah remained tense, sensing that the threat was still very much alive. To everyone's sheer shock, the armored warrior sliced the fiery vortex clean in half using its dark sword alone, driven purely by the dark blade's force. Julia was sent flying back by the enemy's overwhelming counter, causing the entire fire vortex to vanish into thin air. Capitalizing on the momentum, she leaped directly onto the enemy's armored head, yelling that she had him right where she wanted. She drove her blazing blade deep into her opponent's head, seeking to end the fight on the spot. However, her face twisted in pain as she realized her slash wasn't enough to pierce the monster's mysterious armor. The monster counterattacked brutally, throwing a heavy punch that sent the female warrior crashing hard into a stone wall. Julia quickly scrambled back to her feet and cursed under her breath. Damn it! Noah realized with growing dread that not even the legendary destructive force of the Black Flame was working against this foe. Panic set in as he saw that his sister's attacks hadn't left so much as a scratch on the creature's armor. The monster's maw began to glow with a brilliant blue light, building up a terrifying amount of magic power. Julia stared at her arm in sheer horror as an excruciating, agonizing surge of blue energy crept into her body. The armored warrior fired a massive beam of destructive blue energy straight at her. At the absolute last second, Noah lunged forward and tackled his sister, pulling her out of the path of that terrifying beam. The energy beam detonated with absurd force, carving a deep trench into the solid stone floor. Pushing himself up, the young man reassured his sister that he would back her up, but she urgently warned him to avoid all physical contact with the foe. Julia explained that any physical touch with the creature would inflict an agonizing, horrific curse on the body. She groaned in frustration, noting that with her arm injured, she wouldn't be able to gather the power needed to overpower the beast. Noah looked at her with a dead serious expression and made an unusual request, leaving the female warrior completely baffled by his demeanor. The armored warrior began charging another surge of mysterious blue energy in its mouth, prepping a second lethal blast aimed right at them. Noah asked his sister to unleash her strongest attack one more time, a proposal Julia found downright ruthless considering that very move had almost killed her. Even so, Julia agreed to the plan, and Noah assured her he would focus entirely on severing the monster's cursed arm to create the ultimate opening. The two heirs charged forward side by side in perfect sync, combining crimson flames with violent arcs of lightning. Julia executed her flame dance while the young man activated his hybrid divine demon form. Together, they struck the enemy simultaneously, unleashing a terrifying flurry of slashes composed of golden light and black flame across the hall. The violent collision of opposing forces generated a massive, multicolored explosion that lit up the entire 20th floor. A massive pillar of fire and lightning swallowed the central battleground, scattering destruction across the surrounding bookshelves. The siblings slid smoothly back across the floor, holding a firm defensive stance as they watched through the clearing smoke. Standing shoulder to shoulder, they waited in tense anxiety to see if their joint attack had done the trick. However, the terrifying armored warrior let out a ferocious roar and charged right out of the flames, completely unscathed and hungry to continue the fight. Both of them were stunned by the monster's absurd resilience as it closed the distance to launch a fresh strike. The enemy threw a heavy downward slash, but the siblings blocked the blow with extreme precision using their weapons. Julia flipped through the air, trying to find a weak point in the opponent's armor. In the frantic exchange that followed, the enemy defended masterfully, repelling their attacks with its massive shield and forcing the siblings deep back into the hall. Noah blocked a crushing blow, feeling the full brunt of the physical force as he strained every muscle to keep from being crushed. Realizing her brother was about to be overwhelmed, Julia screamed desperately for him to dodge. Channeling the last of her strength, she activated the second form of the Black Flame style to shield her brother. A massive spear of golden fire shot straight at the enemy, dampening the impact of the monster's destructive blow. Undeterred, the gray-armored floor lord kept charging blue magic in its mouth, prepping yet another fatal strike. Julia screamed Noah's name in sheer desperation as she saw the lethal beam locked dead onto him. Noah dropped into his divine demon stance, channeling a massive wave of energy straight into his blade. With absolute focus, the young master triggered the dual polarity single flash technique, releasing the full measure of his offensive potential. A blinding clash of light slammed into the gray monster, setting off a massive explosion within the stone hall. Noah gasped for air, completely exhausted as he felt the intense physical strain this attack placed on his new body. He had managed a direct hit to the head, driving the mystical energy right through the enemy's helm. Yet the monster fought through it, counterattacking with brutal force and forcing the young hero to defend himself at all costs. Noah sensed the extreme danger of the situation and gritted his teeth as he felt himself getting completely pushed to the brink. Suddenly, a massive crimson fire vortex appeared in the gap, trying to stall the enemy's relentless momentum. Julia warned him that she had just spent her absolute last drop of energy to save his life and settle her debt to him. The young man realized with growing dread that even his strongest strike had failed, and his sister's core was completely drained. Up against such terrifying resilience, Noah wondered if their only realistic option left was to retreat from the fight. The towering gray-armored monster kept advancing, imposing toward the two siblings, who were now virtually defenseless. Noah stared into the distance in a panic, wondering if they were really going to have to face yet another monster in a place like this. Out of nowhere, a mysterious voice spoke up, criticizing the lack of finesse and technical flaws in his hybrid strike. The young man went completely silent, trying to pinpoint the true source of that strange, overwhelming spiritual pressure. A brilliant golden light began to materialize in the air. As the voice explained that Noah's energy was chaotic and unbalanced, the young master drew his sword and demanded to know who was talking and what mystical realm he had just stepped into. The voice revealed that he was the successor to the Divine Core and advised the young hero to finish this dangerous battle with a single, decisive blow. Meanwhile, back in the real world, the terrifying monster raised its massive dark sword, preparing to deliver the final strike aimed straight at Noah. Seeing her younger brother standing dead still and completely unresponsive, Julia screamed out in sheer desperation, asking what on earth he was doing at a time like this. Suddenly, a blue system interface popped up, confirming the successor's awakening and unlocking the young hero's divine core. Noah gripped his hilt tightly as he funneled power into the second form of his powerful new divine light technique. A massive pillar of golden energy enveloped his body, completely illuminating the pitch-black layout of the labyrinth. His eyes flared with a brilliant light as the hero activated a technique capable of tearing through the heavens with this newfound radiant energy. A terrifying flurry of golden slashes cut through the air at blinding speed, creating a breathtaking display of raw power inside the hall. The radiant light strikes slammed into the gray monster's armor, causing it to crack and shatter under the divine force. He smirked, realizing this was the true, hidden power of the divine demon core. Noah stood in a commanding stance and warned the enemy that he was about to pay back double for all the pain they had suffered. The hero lunged toward the monster, manifesting blades of pure golden electricity around his steel sword. A new system prompt popped up, announcing that the boss challenge had been officially accepted by the young warrior. Noah was suddenly transported into a vast white space where his golden flame sword glowed with radiant light. A voice resonated through the space, deducing that he had indeed inherited the entire legendary primeval divine core. A towering golden figure materialized before him, radiating pure divine aura and absolute power. An imposing, handsome knight with long blonde hair and golden armor appeared before the astonished young master. The hero asked who he was, and the entity introduced himself as Ziku's Valmouth, the wielder of the primeval divine core. The knight explained that the divine and demon cores Noah had known up until now were actually nothing more than flawed, incomplete byproducts. He recounted that during the Age of Gods, invaders from another world appeared, and the divine core was created specifically to fight them off. Ziku sighed, noting that after a long and grueling war, humanity ultimately fell due to internal conflicts stirred up by humans themselves. He revealed that rival factions feared the overwhelming power of the divine core and decided to wipe out all of its wielders. To prevent this power from ever rebirthing, the primeval force was split in two, giving rise to the demon core and the divine core. Noah realized that the two energy streams were originally one, and Ziku's confirmed that was precisely why he was able to inherit the true divine core. The young man asked if humanity could have beaten the invaders in the past had they not betrayed one another. With a solemn look, the ancient warrior assured him that they would have easily wiped out the entire enemy force. Noah clenched his fist with resolve, realizing that with this legendary power, he could finally change the world's tragic fate. Ziku's warned that at his current core level, that was still impossible, and that he needed to defeat enemies to evolve it further. The young master flashed a confident, cocky smile, showing he was more than ready to take on the challenge. The ancient hero smiled back and decided to begin Noah's training with a relatively simple task. Ziku's ordered the young master to prove his worth by first crushing the insignificant foe standing right in front of him in the real world. Returning to reality, Noah unleashed a massive wave of golden flame that swept through the hall at incredible speed. The young man pressed forward with absolute resolve, clashing his holy sword directly against the powerful opponent's sharp claws. With sharp, focused eyes, the hero vowed that this time he would sever the monster's arm once and for all. The two warriors collided once more in the center of the hall. As pages flew wildly in the wind, Noah used golden blades of mystical energy to block and pin down the enemy's massive arm. The system revealed that this divine technique controlled 6 light blades used for both offense and defense. Utilizing the terrifying speed of his new ability, the young man sliced the gray-armored monster's arm clean off. Ozrek watched the whole thing in absolute shock as he realized the young master had used light itself to cut down the beast. The opponent's arm slammed onto the stone floor, while a golden-purple aura continued to radiate from the young hero's body. Without a moment's hesitation, Noah lunged forward and drove a deep thrust straight into the armored warrior's chest. The young man smirked slightly, mockingly stating that the tables had finally turned in their favor. A massive explosion of golden energy blasted through the opponent's armor, lighting up the entire library area. The monster roared in agony as it felt the purifying power burning through its body. With one final vertical slash, Noah finished off the terrifying foe, celebrating the downfall of his first major enemy. The massive body of the Gray Warrior collapsed onto the library floor, completely destroyed and lifeless. The hero took a deep breath, surveying the outcome of the battle as he worked to calm the surge of mystical energy inside him. Suddenly, one last dangerous wave of blue energy flared up from that exact spot, instantly catching the young master's attention. Julia realized the incoming danger and screamed desperately for her brother to dodge the surprise attack. A massive beam of blue energy shot straight at the young hero, who was caught off guard on the ground. Noah reacted instantly, activating his light sword barrier to absorb the impact of the blue beam. The golden shield collided head-on with a powerful surge of energy. The clash between the two mystical forces triggered a massive explosion, obliterating the remaining bookshelves in the area. As the smoke slowly cleared, it revealed the damage left behind by that desperate last-ditch attack. To everyone's immense relief, Noah stood up completely unharmed amidst the dust, demonstrating the incredible defensive strength of his power. Julia watched the scene in utter shock, unable to comprehend how he had walked away from that blast without a single scratch. Noah raised his glowing blade, warning that he was going to finish off the monster once and for all with his power. The young man unleashed one final radiant strike, and the monster took the full brunt of the destructive energy stream. The beast's armor shattered to pieces under the sheer force of the young heir's divine technique. The impact dispelled the evil aura, and the armored warrior collapsed, completely destroyed. Amidst the ashes, a system window popped up, confirming his victory and announcing that his divine core had leveled up to Tier 2. The young man read the congratulatory message from Ziku's, surprised to see that the ancient hero was still guiding him. The system noted that the divine core grows through combat, advising Noah to make good use of his newfound power. Noah clenched his fist thoughtfully, realizing combat was indeed the key to evolution, and celebrated obtaining his new technique. Still trembling, Osrek rushed over to the young master, asking in total disbelief if he had really defeated the monster. Julia approached and confirmed the enemy was gone, pointing out that the terrible curse had already begun to fade from the area. The young woman looked down at her arm in relief, noticing that the dark, poisonous veins had completely vanished from her skin. Julia told the man that his wife was likely cured as well, and Osrek wept tears of joy, urging that they head back immediately. Walking up to her younger brother, Julia commented with surprise that he looked like a completely different person from the weak warrior he was before the trial. She stared at him with a serious expression and asked point-blank where he had learned such incredible swordsmanship. Seeing him stay silent, she deduced he couldn't talk about it and explained that there were many different core-wielding styles. She detailed that the demon sword style was the core foundation for all warriors of the Doskull house. She mentioned the black flame style, which focused entirely on maximizing the wielder's raw physical attack power. She also brought up the dark lightning style, whose primary focus was extreme speed and strikes. Julia concluded by mentioning the abyssal style, a secret technique specializing in deception and disorienting the opponent. She pointed out that Noah's style didn't belong to any of those schools and asked what he was hiding from everyone. The siblings exchanged a deep, silent gaze, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and mutual suspicion. Julia decided against pushing Noah further, flashing a faint smile and deciding to set her doubts aside for now. As she turned to leave, she said she looked forward to the day they tested their dark cores against each other in real battle. The scene shifted back to the main estate. On his way back with Kyle, the hero held the Tome of the Endless Abyss, the very item he planned to trade with Eve for information. Upon reaching the young informant's room, Noah opened the door, only to find the place completely ransacked and destroyed. Keyes appeared in a fit of rage, reporting that he had made a terrible mistake by leaving the estate. Revealing that young Eve had been kidnapped, the blonde warrior confessed that the person responsible was their brother Skull, who had been hunting for secret data on Noah. Keyes explained that Skull had likely snatched Eve to force her into spilling everything she knew. Noah smirked slightly as realization struck, confirming that the sinister Skull was indeed the mastermind behind the attackers. The young man declared that they were going to rescue the informant, but the bodyguard panicked, realizing Noah intended to challenge Lord Skull himself. Noah flashed a mysterious smile and told his ally not to compare their upcoming clash to a petty dispute between equals. With a cold gaze, the hero vowed that what was about to unfold would be nothing short of a ruthless, one-sided slaughter. Feeling guilty, Key said he would tag along to fix his mistake, surprising the guards with his sudden support. The bodyguards suggested waiting for backup, but Noah countered that there was no time to gather more troops. Tightening his grip on his weapon, the young man declared that the Doskull family sword wouldn't break just because they were outnumbered. The soldier accepted the order, and Noah demanded that he ensure absolute security for the estate in their absence. Demonstrating deep loyalty, the man assured him with fierce determination that he would protect his master's home no matter what happened. With the plan set, the young master took the lead and ordered an immediate assault on the Traitor Skull's base. Noah and Keyes mounted their horses and sped off at high speeds, galloping down the dirt road leading to the rescue location. Keyes hoped Eve was still safe, but commented with full confidence that she was strong enough not to be easily subdued. Noah recognized his immense confidence and asked the blonde older brother out of curiosity why he had decided to become her bodyguard. Keyes revealed that his own dark core had always been considered the weakest among all the family heirs. He confessed that his power was inferior to his brother's, leaving him at a massive disadvantage in the family power struggle. The young man explained that to compensate for this weakness, he sought to learn new combat tactics and master swordsmanship. Noah finally understood the situation, realizing that was why he couldn't predict his brother's attacks. Keyes assured him with determination that he would keep fighting to get stronger and protect Eve at all costs. The two heirs finally arrived in front of the estate gates, and Noah warned that they needed to pinpoint Eve's location first. They dismounted, and the young master grimly warned that they wouldn't spare a single enemy along the way. Noah gathered powerful mystical energy around his legs, preparing to display his strength with a brutally violent move. The young man unleashed a terrifying kick against the estate's massive metal gates. The heavy iron doors were utterly shattered and collapsed. The two brothers charged into the area at full speed, sliding into the courtyard with drawn swords, ready for battle. They were instantly surrounded by a large number of masked soldiers who had been lying in wait for Noah's appearance. Keyes quickly recognized the enemy group and told the boy that this was Skull's elite mercenary unit. The masked warriors surrounded the two brothers, and as the blonde older brother warned that these mercenaries were extremely battle-hardened, their captain laughed off the situation, mocking the two fools for daring to launch a direct attack like that. Noah activated a purple battle aura and coldly warned that he didn't have time for henchmen, ordering them to bring Skull out. The mercenary captain was infuriated by Noah's arrogance, telling the boy he didn't understand the situation. A mercenary suddenly appeared behind the hero, attempting to ambush Noah with a sword strike. Without even looking back, the boy spun around at the last millisecond and easily blocked the enemy's attack. Noah counterattacked, kicking the masked man away with extreme, ruthless force. The captain drew a massive white sword and swore they would show no mercy to anyone who dared challenge Skull. The young master slid across the courtyard grass, channeling electricity around his sacred sword. Noah collided head-on with the mercenary captain's sword, creating a massive explosion of sparks in the courtyard. While Noah confronted the commander, Keyes was pinned down on the battlefield by the remaining mercenaries. He leaped into the air to dodge and attack. He summoned Black Thunder Flash, driving a massive amount of electrical force into his sword. A giant beam of blue electrical energy tore through the grass, striking his opponents with destructive power. Skull's masked men were electrocuted and sent flying backward by the relentless impact of Keyes' powerful magic. Standing amid the defeated enemies, the blonde youth radiated an electrical aura and challenged any other enemy who dared to engage. Noah watched the scene from the corner of his eye, relieved to know he could leave that side to Keyes. The mercenary captain tried to capitalize on the moment of distraction and charged forward, screaming at the hero not to underestimate. He quickly threw a spell scroll high into the sky over the battlefield. The spell scroll began to glow brilliantly with red flames, activating a massive mid-air summoning magic. The young man looked down at the ground and panicked as he realized a terrifying, giant red sigil was appearing. The enemy captain revealed that it was a powerful sealing technique specifically developed to counter their family. He lunged at the young master, launching an attack filled with thick, dangerous purple demon smoke. Noah focused to his absolute limit, his eyes flashing purple as he tried to read his opponent's next move. The system revealed his opponent's name as Vault Grave, a formidable warrior possessing a dangerously hidden defensive technique. Noah quickly began summoning the second form of his powerful divine combat style. However, the young man suddenly felt a terrifying physical resistance. As he tried to channel his core power into his sword, he groaned in pain and frustration, realizing his mystical energy was being mysteriously sealed away. Vault Grave capitalized on the opening and unleashed a cross-slash that forced Noah to leap backward. Noah realized in horror that his opponent's secret technique had completely sealed his dark core. The villain mocked the situation, warning the boy not to think he could beat them with mere swordsmanship. Keyes ran to Noah's side inside the center of the red magic circle, ready to support his brother in battle. The blonde youth analyzed the tactical situation and anxiously pointed out that they were at a severe numerical disadvantage in this courtyard. He complained about the existence of such an annoying, frustrating magic that could seal their dark energy. Keyes ordered Noah to move forward and save Eve while he took responsibility for holding off the enemies alone. The blonde youth told his younger brother not to worry and ordered him to quickly finish Skull off to get the young lady to safety. Noah accepted Keyes' request with dead serious eyes, placing absolute trust in his brother's capabilities. The young master dodged the attacks of the first wave of enemies and ran at full speed toward the interior of the mansion. He shot past like a blur through the lines of masked soldiers, pushing forward without looking back. Seeing this, Keyes flashed a confident smile and warned that even if his core was sealed, he could still use powerful earth magic. He activated his stone path magic, spawning a giant stone pillar that shot forward and shattered the courtyard landscape. The stone pillar propelled the hero straight toward the mansion. Keyes shouted, telling his ally to search the annex, as it was the most suspicious location in the area. Vault Grave caught the movement and desperately ordered his henchmen to chase Noah down at all costs through the hallway. However, Keyes summoned dozens of sharp stone pillars that sprouted from the ground, pinning the charging enemies in place. The mercenary captain clicked his tongue in frustration, seeing his elite unit held back so easily. He watched in fury as his men were impaled on the giant stone spears covering the entire lawn. Vault Grave locked his icy gaze on Keyes, realizing he needed to defeat the blonde youth if he wanted to continue the pursuit. Keyes pointed his sword at the mercenary captain and challenged him to focus on a real fight with him right now. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Skull was interrogating Eve, demanding to know the secret behind Noah's new power. Tied to a wooden chair, the young girl calmly replied that his questions would forever remain hopeless and foolish. Skull laughed savagely and pointed at the captured maidservants, asking if she truly didn't care about their fate. Eve shot back with utter disdain, saying that having a useless, cowardly younger brother was an unbearable humiliation, which infuriated Skull, but he was cut short when he heard the deafening noise of battle from the outer courtyard. Eve smiled, deducing that Noah had finally arrived, while Skull mocked the younger brother for daring to launch a direct assault like that. The villain focused his hateful blue eyes, showing he didn't fear the advance of the youngest Dazgul heir. Eve proudly commented that such cowardly methods didn't suit Noah because he possessed the most important thing in the world. Eve laughed sarcastically, declaring that she could finally test the boy's true combat power herself. Annoyed by the hostage's arrogance, the red-haired man drew his metallic sword, promising to make this haughty woman pay. Suddenly, the door shattered, and Noah burst into the room with grand presence. The young man dropped into a defensive stance and calmly declared that he had come to this dangerous lair solely to rescue his sister. Noah raised his shadow light sword, staring straight at Skull's silhouette in the center of the luxurious wooden hall. In a familiarly calm and sarcastic tone, Eve smiled at her younger brother and remarked that he was a bit late. Skull pointed his silver sword straight at Noah's chest and roared the younger brother's name with deep hatred. Noah smirked, asking if he wanted to finish this. The red-haired man scoffed and challenged the boy, asking if he genuinely believed he had the ability to defeat him in battle. Skull lost control completely and charged aggressively, unleashing an attack filled with dense purple demon energy. The two brothers exchanged fast, precise sword strikes across the grand hall, as bookshelves and books crashed and scattered all around them. The massive impact of the battle was so immense that they continued exchanging terrifying sword strikes mid-air while falling from the top of the palace at extreme speeds. Window glass shattered, throwing both heirs out into the yard. The two warriors landed nimbly on the courtyard grass and quickly backed off to catch their combat breath. Noah activated his mystical appraisal skill to analyze the full details of his red-haired brother's true potential and power level. The system revealed that Skull possessed impressive attributes and was the founder of the dangerous Abyss combat style. The young man calmly asked what Skull's true motive was in dispatching mercenaries and even using children to harm him. The red-haired man flashed a mocking smile and answered bluntly that the reason for his actions was glaringly obvious. Simply put, he found the main character to be an eyesore. Consumed by rage, the villain lunged forward, launching a violently brutal vertical slash shrouded in purple magic energy. The two swords clashed violently, creating a massive explosion and shoving Skull back. Noah felt relieved to realize that his core seal had been lifted as soon as he left the range of the mercenary captain's magic. Skull attacked frantically, screaming that he couldn't accept trash as weak as Noah gaining the clan head's recognition. The young man raised his sacred sword, blocking his opponent's relentless string of frantic attacks. The red-haired man roared with unhinged eyes, demanding his younger brother collapse right then and there in this family duel. Noah dodged with a perfect acrobatic move, leaping over his opponent's head to evade Skull's fatal horizontal slash. He landed with nimble footwork, creating a safe distance from the enemy to formulate a plan. The young master analyzed his brother's attacks, realizing he was blending feints with real strikes to disrupt his guard. Skull warned that Noah was nothing more than a stepping stone for his victory, and began channeling a massive amount of purple smoke. The villain readied himself and began summoning the third form of his terrifying abyss style to obliterate the boy. He summoned Night Marching Demon Army, spawning a massive legion of white-bone warriors in the courtyard. The white-bone monsters charged aggressively at Noah, but he swung his sword and shattered them all. The young man took a stance and began to suspect whether this army of bone warriors was merely his opponent's bait. A skeleton leaped up, launching a downward slash toward the young master's head with an old sword. The hero immediately recognized the attack. He raised his weapon and blocked the bone monster's metal sword. Noah realized with curiosity that these creatures were not simple illusions, but magical summons with actual physical mass. Seeing more monsters charging over, the hero decided he needed to clear the battlefield fast. Noah executed a spectacular leap, evading the encirclement on the ground and channeling light energy into his powerful sword. In midair, the boy began summoning the second form of his divine technique, focusing his full power into a single point. The warrior activated the twin sky slash move, unleashing a massive, destructive burst of golden light. The golden slashes blanketed the entire lawn, instantly slicing apart and destroying dozens of white-bone warriors. Noah landed on the stone floor as the smoke from his divine technique began to clear from the area. The young man grumbled about the hassle, noticing the undead were starting to regenerate and rise from the ground once again. He activated his hybrid aura, concentrating golden-purple electricity around his combat boots. Noah shot like lightning through the middle of the army, cutting down every opponent with high-speed, precise slashes. The young man ignored the skeletons and charged straight at Skull, launching a surprise attack aimed at his red-haired brother. Skull blocked the hit and roared in fury, asking the hero if he really believed he could defeat his entire army. They exchanged rapid sword strikes. While Noah was grappling with Skull, several skeletons tried to attack the young man from behind, but he tracked their presence in the courtyard with extreme ease. With a flawless sword spin, the hero released an omnidirectional attack that crushed all the white-bone intruders. Noah clashed swords forcefully with Skull, generating a massive burst of purple and golden energy between them. The boy pushed forward, warning his brother that he didn't care how much trash was sent his way. He repeated his fluid movements, releasing more golden light blades to shred the surrounding skeletons to pieces. Skull was blown back by the shockwave and collapsed onto the ground, groaning in pure pain and extreme physical exhaustion. The two enemies looked at each other, panting from a distance in the courtyard that had been completely ravaged by power explosions. The red-haired man thrust his sword deep into the soil, channeling all his dark energy directly into the ground. Terrifying purple fissures tore through the earth, sending sharp spikes surging up from the soil toward the hero. Noah was startled by the speed of the earth attack and quickly repositioned to avoid getting hit. Suddenly, a giant bone dragon emerged, shattering the ground under the command of an enraged Skull. Skull pointed his sword in fury, ordering the monster to attack and tear the hero apart. Noah observed the massive bone dragon as a powerful surge of energy began rising around. Flashing a confident smile, the young man decided it was time to test his new mystical capability. A system window revealed that his sacred core had leveled up and unlocked a rare technique. The young hero took a stance and prepared to activate the fifth form of his divine combat style. His eyes flashed brilliantly as he activated his special shadow control ability. Noah charged toward the giant monster. The boy hovered in midair above the dragon, focusing on his next combat move. He dove down like lightning toward the enemy, radiating a purple and golden aura. The hero focused his glowing gaze straight into the bone dragon's terrifying golden eyes. Noah landed precisely on the monster's head. The young man stood firm on the beast's head, leaving Skull completely shocked by the monstrous sight. Uncomprehending, the villain screamed in desperation, demanding the monster destroy the hero immediately. Noah explained that his eye technique had decoded the enemy's movements and seized absolute control. He declared that the monster was now his slave, and the red-haired man cursed in frustration, telling him not to screw around. Infuriated, Skull decided to attack himself, preparing the first form of the Abyss style. The villain fired a powerful dark projectile that pierced clean through the dragon. A massive, destructive explosion of dark energy occurred, wrecking the surroundings of the mansion. At the same time, the main character had already circled around behind his back. Skull took a slash through his back and coughed up blood, forced to leap away hastily to maintain distance. Severely wounded, the villain admitted he had no choice left but to resort to his ultimate measure. He pulled out a small metallic flute and began to blow it, releasing black smoke around himself. A massive dark portal framed by blue lightning opened in midair, making the boy curious about the magic. A young Eve appeared, stepping through the magical passage while escorted by two dangerous masked soldiers. Skull flashed a sly smile and asked his younger brother if he really thought he could save her. A mercenary held a sword to Eve's neck, creating an extremely tense hostage situation. Noah was utterly furious and called his brother a coward upon seeing his sister's life in grave danger. The villain assured him he would release the hostage only after destroying the hero. Noah gritted his teeth in frustration, trying to find a way to resolve the situation without Eve getting hurt. Suddenly, a giant red pillar of light descended from above, smashing into the ground between the two brothers. Skull backed away, panicking at the power of the blast, unable to comprehend who dared to interfere here. The majestic heir Damien appeared, clad in heavy armor and wielding a shield, standing right in front of Eve. Skull panicked upon recognizing his older brother, while Noah observed the arrival of a powerful ally. Damien sternly warned that Eve had declared neutrality, and the succession rules strictly forbade attacking her. The red-haired man argued back angrily, trying to justify his desperate actions to win the succession race. With glowing red eyes, Damien assured him that he would destroy Skull for violating the clan's rules. The villain collapsed to the ground, cursing in rage as he realized his plan had completely failed. The older brother locked his sharp gaze and warned the red-haired man not to pull any stupid tricks here. He reminded everyone that this was a fight to the death, focused solely on claiming the opponent's core. Noah firmly declared that he wouldn't allow anyone to stand in the way of his victory. Damien pointed out that interfering in the succession fight was also a sin, and that he would decide the outcome of this battle. He ordered Noah and Skull to fight with everything they had while he watched the outcome as arbiter. The young master drew his sword once more and invited his red-haired brother to resume their courtyard duel. He sarcastically asked if his opponent could fight without resorting to hostages and children. Skull lost his mind entirely upon realizing everyone was still mocking his capabilities. Skull concentrated and decided to summon the seventh form of the dangerous Abyss style. Across the yard, he activated the dark cloak technique, enveloping his entire body in thick purple smoke. The red-haired man charged forward in a rage, promising that this time he would slash the hero into 1,000 pieces without mercy. Noah realized his opponent's style focused on disorienting the enemy's mind and perception. The young man concluded that forcing an aggressive assault without leaving any openings was the best tactic to win. The two heirs collided violently in the center of the yard, generating electrical sparks and powerful gusts of wind. Skull summoned dark illusion clones to attack from multiple angles and throw off the young man's defense. Noah reacted quickly, activating his twin sky slash technique with a powerful golden aura. A massive explosion of light and purple energy burst outward, destroying his opponent's clones. Noah was deeply stunned to realize his older brother had completely blocked his strongest divine attack. giving the hero no room to breathe. The red-haired man prepared the fourth form of his terrifying abyss style. He summoned Invisible Slash, channeling red and black flames across his blade. Skull unleashed the secret strike, ripping through the defense of Noah, who was scrambling to protect himself from the lethal blow. The young master summoned immense physical strength to block the attack. Pressing hard against the Sword of Light, Noah took a light scratch to the cheek and realized this empowered strike was completely unblockable. The young man was knocked backward as he fought to regain his footing on the ground. Skull advanced aggressively, screaming that the hero wouldn't escape his relentless assault. They traded a series of rapid blows, creating a brilliant display of golden and purple light across the battlefield. Noah groaned in exhaustion under the crushing pressure from Skull, who kept pressing forward without pause. The red-haired man grew frustrated upon realizing his younger brother had miraculously avoided a fatal wound. Noah held his ground, raising his sword to hold off his opponent's terrifying onslaught. Massive pillars of golden light erupted from the ground, shattering the stone courtyard with extreme force. Skull leaped nimbly to escape the massive shockwave sweeping across the entire battle area. Noah realized his opponent's illusion, swordsmanship, and formidable defense were his greatest strengths. Noah asked why someone so talented had to resort to such cowardly methods in the family succession struggle. Skull roared that he had been abandoned by their father because his father viewed his illusion talent as useless to the family. The villain explained that hatred had driven him to create the Abyss style just to prove his true worth. Skull bitterly recalled the day the family completely ignored him, looking down on all his effort. Consumed by hatred, the red-haired man vowed that his only remaining choice was to win at all costs. With his face covered in blood, he swore he would force their father to recognize his strength through this battle. The villain said he didn't care about dirtying his hands with vile acts. As a giant red pillar shot up, Skull ordered an end to the talk and commanded the boy to become fuel for his grand victory. Mid-clash, the red-haired man prepared to summon the ninth form of the Abyss style. Releasing a massive surge of energy, he summoned Dark Ruined Dragon, manifesting a giant crimson beast in the air. The giant crimson beast hovered in the cloudy sky, spreading terror across the entire area. The crimson dragon dove down at high speed, aiming straight for Noah's position on the ground. An absurd explosion erupted in the center of the courtyard, destroying the walls and floor with extreme force. Noah managed to protect himself just in time by forming a sphere shield of golden light to contain the giant explosion. The young man emerged standing firm amid the golden sparks, holding his sword ready for the final showdown. The giant crimson and black dragon hovered right behind Skull, displaying terrifying power. Noah realized his dark core had reached a critical energy limit and was beginning to overload. Skull laughed loudly, telling his younger brother he stood no chance of winning relying purely on standard abilities. Without hesitation, the young man reached inside his coat. Reaching for his secret trump card, the red-haired man's eyes widened in sheer astonishment as he recognized the mysterious item Noah was holding. The young man revealed that he had condensed his own accumulated toxins to use as a power booster. Noah placed the stabilized poison pill into his mouth and swallowed the dangerous item without hesitating for even a second. Skull screamed in horror, asking the boy if he was insane for swallowing something that could make him lose control. Consumed by rage, the hero began releasing a terrifying amount of golden and purple energy through all his wounds. Noah smiled, stating that the toxins would serve as the perfect fuel to restore his strength. A system window popped up confirming his sacred divine core had reached level 20 and unlocked a new strike. Noah recalled his past life as Xenon and swore he would never let history repeat itself in this life of light. He gathered energy in his blade and decided to summon the second form of his powerful divine style. The hero activated Glorious Shadow Light, unleashing a massive surge of electrified energy. He executed a downward slash just as Skull's terrifying Crimson Dragon charged aggressively. The two giant techniques collided in the courtyard, and Noah's strike split the Crimson Dragon clean in half. The massive impact created a fierce burst of mixed energy that completely destroyed the landscape. A terrifying shockwave sent both warriors flying backward into the ruined courtyard. A giant dome of destructive energy expanded across the gap, glowing with intense power. A massive cloud of dust and debris was hurled into the air by the sheer power of the blow. Damien acted quickly, using his giant metal shield to protect his younger sister from the powerful shockwave, and the giant mushroom cloud rising over the mansion, marking the end of the monumental clash. The older brother waited for the smoke to clear, revealing a courtyard completely devastated by the collision. Damien and Eve watched the scene in shock, unsure who had survived the blast. The wind blew the smoke away, revealing the defeated Skull on his knees. While the young master stood firm, Noah pointed his blade at his opponent's neck and calmly revealed that he had no desire to take his life. The hero ordered the traitor to surrender, but the red-haired man merely bowed his head in absolute silence. Skull feigned accepting defeat, promising to hand over his dark core, and Noah calmly accepted the deal. Suddenly, Noah's battle instinct screamed a warning as he caught his brother's cunning expression. Before the boy could react, the villain's silver sword stabbed clean through his abdomen in a fit of rage. Skull flashed a completely unhinged smile, laughing wildly for having tricked the hero. The villain shoved harder against the hilt, driving the bloody blade deeper into Noah's chest. Damien and Eve witnessed the vile, horrifying act of betrayal, shocking everyone with his cowardly attitude. The red-haired man screamed like a lunatic, declaring he would never accept surrendering or kneeling to someone like him. He yanked the sword out violently, screaming that no one stood above his power. Noah coughed violently and collapsed onto the stone floor while clutching the severe wound in his abdomen. Desperate at the sight of the boy's tragic state, young Eve ran toward him, screaming his name. Damien grimly grabbed the young girl's arm to keep her from interfering in the ongoing fight. Skull raised his metal sword, aggressively swearing that the battle and Noah's journey would end right here and now. However, Noah delivered one last fast strike through the air, leaving a massive gash across his chest. Skull took a direct hit from the desperate counterattack and fell backward, completely defeated. The red-haired villain lay motionless on the lawn after taking Noah's final strike. Silence returned to the mansion courtyard while both warriors lay on the stone ground. Noah realized with sadness that his new family preferred sacrificing their own lives in the name of pride. The image showed both warriors lying down, symbolizing the horrific cost of the succession struggle. Eve broke free from Damien's grip and ran desperately, dropping to her knees beside the boy's wounded body. Damien warned that the wound was severe, but she declared she would use secret magic to heal her younger brother. The young girl focused her absolute limit, releasing a thick, brilliant green mist over the boy. She placed both hands on his chest and activated the first form of the Shadow Flower style. The Shadow Lantern spell spread through Noah's body, beginning to regenerate his internal organ tissues. Mystical green energy flowed rapidly through the energy pathways in Noah's arm, soothing the pain. Noah regained consciousness after a day. The young girl explained with relief that she had managed to control his core quite well. The young man smiled faintly and sincerely thanked his older sister for saving his life back there. Eve pointed at Skull's lying corpse and declared that the reward for victory now belonged to Noah. Skull's red dark core hovered in midair, radiating a massive amount of dark energy. Noah focused his attention on the glowing orb. Realizing this was his chance to grow stronger, the hero knelt before his defeated opponent's body under the calm, watchful eyes of his sister Eve. He extended his right hand toward the core, absorbing his opponent's dense red energy. Noah felt a massive surge of golden and purple electrical energy course through his new body. With glowing purple eyes, the young man looked at the system panel, confirming the fusion with the new core. The system window showed that his dark core had upgraded from 2 stars to 5 stars in power. Noah was surprised to discover that his dark energy had advanced by the equivalent of several years of physical training. The young man looked around, satisfied to realize the dangerous situation had been resolved. The blonde older brother, Keys, approached the scene, walking calmly over now that the battle was finished. Keys admitted in surprise that he had never imagined his younger brother would be capable of defeating the dangerous skull. He asked if Eve was all right, and the young girl confirmed it, mentioning that Damien had saved her at the most critical moment. Keyes was impressed while Damien stood with crossed arms, stating he was merely enforcing family law. The older brother prepared to leave, slinging his massive metal shield onto his back. Damien walked past the young man, casting a serious, evaluating look at the victorious heir, while the other siblings watched their ally depart with anxious, tense expressions. Damien pondered Noah's mysterious strength with curiosity, which seemed to far exceed a normal core. Suddenly, a white-haired subordinate approached the group, interrupting their thoughts. The palace servant formally announced that the powerful family head, Victor, was summoning Noah. The scene shifted, revealing the imposing architecture of the great citadel, where the terrifying head of the family resided. Inside his office, Victor commented that he had heard rumors about Noah claiming the defeated skull's dark core. The powerful family head glared at the young master with razor-sharp eyes, demanding confirmation of the truth. Noah maintained an elegant posture and answered directly, confirming that he had emerged victorious in battle. Victor asked about Skull's strength, and Noah candidly admitted that his older brother surpassed him in every aspect. Intrigued, the family head asked why the boy believed he could win the succession struggle. Noah felt terrifying mental pressure from his father and focused to deliver the best answer he could. He firmly declared that his thirst for power was greater than any opponent's. Victor smiled faintly with satisfaction, deeming it an excellent response from a warrior. The family head warned that the deceased had committed unforgivable sins and swore to reward the boy. Noah seized the opportunity and requested his reward be assignment to execute a mission in a very specific location. His father was surprised by his son's lack of greed, pointing out that he could have asked for weapons or gold. The young man replied that the benefits gained from this trip would far outweigh any treasure. Pleased with his son's focus, Victor accepted the condition and asked what his desired destination was. The scene shifted as a horse-drawn carriage crossed a narrow, dangerous dirt road nestled between misty mountains. Inside the carriage, Noah explained to his two maids that this journey was not a sightseeing trip. The young man flashed a calm smile and asked them to handle all matters related to his work. The two maids happily agreed, promising to do their absolute best to assist him on the mission. Suddenly, Lydia's eyes widened as she caught sight of an impressive landscape through the window. The maid waved excitedly, pointing toward the horizon and announcing that their destination had appeared. Noah observed the legendary city built through an ancient alliance between dragons and humans. It was none other than the legendary Draconia, a magnificent city surrounded by massive mountain peaks and winged beasts soaring in the sky. Not long into their journey, they were intercepted by two soldiers, forcing the carriage to make an emergency stop. Stepping out of the carriage, the young man was greeted by guards who asked if he was the heir to the Doskull family. The scaled warriors formally introduced themselves as official envoys of Draconia. The guards offered to guide the group from here along the rocky mountain path. Noah focused his purple gaze as he sensed a strange, hostile shift in the energy around them. The young man stared toward the mountain range, realizing something dangerous was approaching. Noah smiled faintly, thanking the local envoys for the crucial support they were providing. Suddenly, red ogre monsters leaped down from the hillside, roaring that they had identified their target from the Doskull family. One monster slammed hard into the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of dust on the road. A pack of sharp-horned ogres completely surrounded the young master's carriage on the spot. The scaled guards panicked and drew their weapons, urging Noah to step back to protect himself. The ogre tribe was a warrior race dedicated to fighting for control over this mountainous region. They placed immense value on brute strength in conflict. While the lizard men respected order and law, the commander explained that the beasts were trying to obstruct the mission, and Noah assured him he fully understood the danger. The hero ordered Lydia and Selena to get inside the carriage immediately to stay safe before he attacked. The ogres mocked the young man's appearance, claiming Draconia had truly fallen if they sent such a weak child. The giant ogre leader scoffed at Noah, telling him to turn back if he wanted to live. The hero merely flashed a sarcastic smile at the red beast's arrogance. Noah shot back a provocation, saying he would spare his opponent's life if he fled right now. Utterly enraged by the boy's mockery, the monster called him an arrogant brat on the road. It bulked up its body, gathering power, and swore to crush every bone in the young master's body. The ogre lunged forward, throwing a heavy punch that created a thick cloud of dust and wind across the clearing. Noah remained calm and dropped into a quick-draw sword stance, channeling hybrid energy into his blade. His opponent's massive fist came speeding down straight toward the hero's head. The young man executed a spectacular backflip, easily dodging the beast's violent lunge. The punch impacted and shattered the rocky ground, leaving deep fissures across the battlefield. Noah performed an acrobatic backflip midair, keeping his sharp purple eyes locked on his opponent. The monster roared in sheer rage as the young master readied his counterattack. The hero dove down toward the enemy, manipulating airflow to boost his descent speed and activating the first form of his divine style, unleashing a powerful mystical light technique. A massive, brilliant golden sword cut through the air and struck straight at the giant ogre's position. However, it dodged the attack and circled around behind the main character. Before he could react, a mountain-shattering punch was unleashed, sending his body flying backward like a cannonball. Fortunately, the main character was completely uninjured after that attack. The young man pointed out that while its strength was impressive, its attack movements were far too slow. Humiliated, the monster stood up, screaming in fury and calling the young master an arrogant, foolish brat. It threw a giant horizontal punch toward the hero hovering in midair. Noah dodged with supreme grace, gliding past the beast's arm with incredible dexterity. He executed a flawless diagonal slash with his golden blade, severing the ogre's limb in midair. The ogre leader coughed up blood and collapsed, defeated on the rocky floor. After his final slash, the hero looked toward the remaining monsters on the mountain and challenged them all to charge down and face him. The young man stood in a defensive stance, facing the remaining enemies watching from the hilltop. The ogres roared in anger and began charging down from the rocks at high speed to attack the hero. Noah calmly observed the army rushing toward the ground, determined to crush the young noble. He focused and prepared the second form of his divine combat style, radiating an intense light. With fluid movements, he fired blades of golden energy, slicing through all the monsters in midair. The corpses of the defeated ogres fell lifelessly to the ground, confirming the young man's swift victory. The Draconia guards watched in awe, acknowledging that his strength far exceeded all the rumors. The two maids stepped out of the carriage to praise the hero, and Noah scolded them for failing to follow his orders. Selena smiled and said it was a maid's duty to witness her master's grand victories. Noah glanced toward the mountain peak, where the final enemy was hiding and making himself known. In the sky, a majestic warrior riding a red-winged dragon observed the young man intently. The mysterious knight, clad in golden armor, jumped off the dragon, diving swiftly down through the cloud layer. He landed with grand presence, kicking up a massive dust cloud on the road right in front of everyone. The warrior revealed that he had witnessed the entire battle and praised the strength the young man had displayed. He introduced himself as Adelbalt Fangray, the mighty commander of the local dragon knights. When asked why he hadn't helped, he stated that a king couldn't be so weak as to need saving. Noah smiled and asked if he had passed the warrior's trial. The commander nodded in confirmation, and Adelbalt promised to lead the young master directly to meet the esteemed Lord Alcardos. The journey continued with an official dragon escort across the city's stone bridges. Selena watched in awe as humans and lizardmen lived together in harmony on the streets. The two maids commented that a kingdom with such harmony among different races was extremely rare. The guide suggested they could explore the surroundings later, assuring them that everyone would love this place. A majestic blue dragon flew across the sky above the carriage, showcasing the grand majesty of Draconia. They entered a cave illuminated by mysterious green runes under the guidance of the warrior's lantern. The group arrived before a massive ancient stone gate carved with the image of a sleeping dragon. Adelbalt raised his lantern and announced loudly that he had brought young master Noah Doskel. The stone carving glowed with a faint golden light as a deep echoing voice ordered everyone to enter the main hall. The massive stone structure began to open slowly, revealing the darkness of the mysterious room. The group advanced through the grand entrance and was immediately greeted by a powerful, mystical gust of wind. Noah felt an overwhelming spiritual pressure and concluded it was equivalent to his powerful biological father. The scaled guards could not withstand the force of the aura and collapsed to the floor, unable to stand up, while the two maids cowered behind the hero, who stood firm against that terrifying gravitational force. Two glowing blue eyes emerged from the darkness of the giant room, staring intently at the new guests. A calm and majestic voice echoed in the dark, welcoming the young heir of the Doskull family. It was none other than the legendary Lord Alcardos, a majestic white dragon, who referred to Noah as his young collaborator. The two maids and the lizard guards waited in absolute silence to pay their respects in the presence of the deity. Noah stepped forward and formally introduced himself as the heir sent by the Doskull family. Alcardos brought his giant snout close and sincerely thanked him for the support from such an influential family. The giant dragon focused his glowing blue eyes and whispered that he sensed a nostalgic energy coming from the young man. Noah didn't smile, knowing the Dragon Lord was a mystical deity who had existed since the world's ancient times. The young man clenched his fists, causing his hybrid purple and gold aura to shine brilliantly. The warrior summoned all his spiritual power, leaving a powerful mystical presence before the Lord. Alcardos observed the light from Noah's flame from above, confirming the greatness of the new sacred core. The giant creature was deeply moved to see divine light once more after centuries of being completely forgotten. The Lord ordered Adelbalt to reveal every detail of the secret mission to the young Doskull heir. The commander spoke up, ready to explain the complex plea for help sent to the noble family. He revealed that their lizard race had been facing a horrific and fierce war against the ogres for many years. The warrior explained that the balance of power in the region had recently shifted in favor of the enemy. He pointed out that the ogres had recruited an elite strategist who had finally shattered Draconia's defense system. Noah deduced that they were seeking help to turn the tide of the war, but the Lord warned that the mission went far beyond that. The military commanders of the enemy race were aggressively moving their pawns, conquering more territory on the map. Adelbalt touched his sword and confessed that their true intention was to put an end to the conflict. The scaled warrior revealed that the mission had to be completed quickly before a tragic event occurred. He shared that the venerable dragon Lord Alcardos was extremely old and nearing the twilight of his long life. Noah didn't smile as he realized the remaining time for this powerful leader was incredibly short. The commander revealed that when Alcardos passed away, he would create a massive source of power called the Alcardos Core. Noah remembered that in his past life, this mystical treasure had fallen into the wrong hands, causing a massive disaster. With resolve, the young man accepted the difficult task, promising to prevent the core from being stolen by villains. The Lord thanked him and promised that Noah would be able to collect his remains in the form of rare materials after he passed. The commander swore to provide full support for the journey and decided to reveal another dangerous secret about the enemy. Adelbalt said rumors were circulating that the ogres had captured the legendary sphere of 8 treasures. Noah grew quite anxious upon receiving information about the possession of such a dangerous mystical item. This powerful relic was an artifact capable of overwhelmingly boosting a nation's military strength. The hero promised to investigate the situation and planned to ask Eve for support to expose the ogre's secrets. Noah decided to take a stroll through the bustling streets of Draconia to begin searching for personal allies. The young man reasoned that an all-out war between the races was inevitable, and he couldn't resolve everything alone. The young man wondered if he should recruit an ancient, powerful companion he had met in his past life. He analyzed the ancient inscriptions carved on the square's walls, searching for clues to her whereabouts, and walked toward the central city monument, hoping to find any sign of the legendary female warrior. He remembered she used to operate in this area and celebrated finding her faster than expected. It was the Holy Maiden. Liliana, a powerful 9-star female healer, had saved his life countless times in the past. Noah approached the young girl, casually strolling through the square, feeling a massive surge of nostalgia upon seeing her again. Liliana noticed the young man's fixated gaze and looked back at him with expressive, bright blue eyes. Slightly annoyed, the young girl politely asked him not to look at her like that. Liliana explained that her next musical performance in the central square was still a long way off. Noah was surprised by her words, and she curiously asked if he had come just to hear her sing. Flustered, he apologized and asked for the young girl's name. Trying to process this new reality, the young girl gripped the neck of her unusual instrument, preparing to perform. With a cheerful smile, Liliana formally introduced herself as a simple bard from the region. Noah was shocked to realize the holy maiden was using the identity of a bard to conceal her true strength. The system revealed that her stats were at the 6-star level, confirming she had not yet reached her peak. Noah maintained a serious posture, called her name, and said he had an important proposal. After listening to the full explanation, Liliana remarked that she now clearly understood the gravity of the war against the ogres. However, to the young man's surprise, she crossed her arms and firmly refused to join his combat squad. Noah was taken aback by Liliana's sudden rejection and calmly asked for the reason. The young girl focused her glowing yellow eyes, revealing that she could sense his dark core. Liliana pointed out that a powerful dark energy was radiating from Noah, making the air in the courtyard tense. To convince her, the young man raised his arm, releasing small golden sparks of mystical energy. The holy maiden grew curious as she realized his divine power blended seamlessly with the darkness. Liliana accepted the invitation, but set an unusual condition, making the young master quite curious. With a playful smile on her face, she requested that the young man find her a picture-perfect, romantic boyfriend. Noah was completely shocked and stammered in surprise. Unable to believe the girl's eccentric request, the young man imagined awkward scenarios from his past life. Recalling his ally's peculiar habits, she demanded her suitor be a strong gentleman and strictly forbade anyone carrying a dark core. Noah smirked, realizing Liliana's enthusiastic personality hadn't changed one bit. The hero thought of the Dragon Knight Adelbalt and assured her that he had the perfect candidate to help her. Instantly, the young girl reached out her hand to seal the partnership deal, warning that she was putting all her trust in his word. Noah shook Liliana's hand firmly, sealing the agreement under his new identity as Noah Daskell. The horse carriage departed, leaving behind the majestic mountain city of Draconia. Heading toward their new target, while traveling through the mountain range, Liliana asked why they were going so far, and Noah told her they needed a train. The young man revealed that a powerful magical tool lay dormant in a hidden sanctuary within that region. Suddenly, Noah's sharp intuition detected a powerful threat approaching the rocky location. The pair arrived before the collapsed entrance of a dark cave radiating dangerous spiritual energy. He activated his holy power and caught sight of something. An ancient magic circle activated on the rock. Noah quickly drew his weapon and stepped forward. The young man delivered a precise slash at the magic circle. A large cloud of purple smoke dispersed, and Noah stood ready, knowing the sanctuary was extremely heavily guarded. They entered the darkness of the cave, advancing with extreme caution. The female bard pointed out that the barrier was a warning of extreme danger to anyone who dared pass. He jokingly asked if she was scared, but she assured him she wasn't scared at all. Inside, the cave was filled with beautiful glowing blue crystals illuminating the path. Noah led the group, keeping his sword ready for any sign of a threat. Suddenly, a shadow fast as lightning cut through the air, forcing the hero to raise his weapon into a quick defensive stance. 3 wolf-like beasts with sharp horns emerged from the shadows and lunged at the group. Liliana opened her magic support book and said she would handle rear support during the battle. A sharp-horned wolf charged at high speed, attempting to bite the hero with razor-sharp jaws. Noah focused, channeling electricity into his blade, and prepared to unleash a vertical slash. With lightning-fast movements, the young man sliced both beasts in mid-air, using divine swordsmanship. With lightning-fast movements, the young man sliced both beasts in mid-air, using divine swordsmanship. The heir smirked sarcastically, declaring he could defeat such weak opponents all by himself. Liliana was extremely impressed by the young man's speed and praised his combat skills. Suddenly, a giant scaled tail emerged from the cave's shadows, moving stealthily behind him. Noah realized the lethal presence too late and frantically shouted his new ally's name. Another giant sharp-horned wolf dropped from the sanctuary's ceiling, targeting the young girl's back. The beast slammed into the ground, kicking up a thick dust screen, but Liliana managed to leap back and dodge in time. The female bard built up momentum and delivered a spectacular kick engulfed in golden light toward the monster. The physical impact blasted the giant wolf backward into the rock wall, destroying the creature. She adjusted her hat and proudly commented that she knew how to defend herself very well. And Noah acknowledged her great strength. The young girl pointed out that she had never seen this type of monster before, and Noah explained that the cave was gathering dragon energy. He detailed that the high concentration of magic caused local beasts to evolve in unique and dangerous ways. The girl fearfully admitted that she hadn't expected this place to be so hostile. Noah comforted his ally, assuring her that the magical item they were looking for was very close. Liliana curiously asked if the item they were seeking was truly a powerful magical tool. Noah explained that the mysterious artifact would serve as an essential safety guarantee for the group, and they continued at a brisk pace, venturing deeper into the hazardous rocky landscape of the mystical cave. The air signaled they were nearing the deepest and darkest area of the dangerous sanctuary. Liliana widened her expressive blue eyes as she caught a glimpse of something glowing in the center of the main hall. The female bard pointed joyfully, gesturing toward a stone pedestal where a very ancient metal sword lay. Noah sensed danger and shouted desperately, ordering her to stop and not touch the mystical object. A terrifying and colossal hostile presence suddenly emerged from the shadows of the blue cave ceiling. The young man focused his sharp purple gaze, detecting the enemy's strong hostile intent lurking above. He screamed a warning for her to be careful as he rushed toward his panicked ally. Noah managed to scoop the girl into his arms at the very last second, saving her from the attack of a terrifying sharp-horned lizard. A massive creature covered in sharp purple spikes roared violently, blocking the hero's path. The hero realized with concern that the cave's only exit was completely blocked by the monster. The mystical creature opened its massive jaws and spewed an overwhelming stream of red fire toward them. Noah cursed in frustration, realizing the wide blast radius of the flame attack made normal dodging impossible. Liliana reacted swiftly, opening her mystical book to cast a powerful defensive spell. The female bard extended her hands and began chanting mysterious incantations to alter the physical laws of the area. She summoned Holy Circle Barrier, creating a giant hexagonal shield in the courtyard. The massive stream of fire swept across the entire stone hall, colliding violently with the Holy Maiden's mystical shield. The terrifying heat melted the surrounding rocks, generating smoke and sparks that completely obscured their vision. The magical shield glowed with immense intensity, flawlessly withstanding the enemy's full firepower. Noah praised Liliana's superb support skills upon seeing her suppress the dragon's brutal attack. The young man built up momentum and slammed his foot hard onto the stone floor, shifting into an offensive stance against the giant monster. Enveloped in purple and golden thunder, he charged relentlessly toward the giant elite opponent's body. Noah leaped high toward the beast's chest, preparing a finishing strike with his lightning-infused sword. He unleashed a powerful attack that tore through the monster's hard-scale armor, causing massive physical damage. The purple sharp-horned lizard's black fluid spattered across the stone floor, confirming the effectiveness of the mystical slash. The beast roared in extreme agony, trying to bite the intruder who was moving at terrifying speed. Noah performed multiple acrobatic spins, delivering a continuous combo of attacks that disrupted the enemy's defense. Liliana anxiously warned that the intensity of the battle was causing the cave walls to collapse rapidly. The female bard quickly flipped through her mystical book, preparing to cast a new crowd control spell in the area. She summoned Holy Circle Pillar, directing chains of golden light to bind her opponent. The electric chains tightly bound the giant purple sharp-horned lizard, preventing it from moving any further. Liliana shouted urgently, warning that the restraint wouldn't last long, and telling him to finish it quickly. Noah decided to focus all his sword energy into a single point to prevent a total collapse. The monster tried to unleash a desperate attack with its giant sharp-horned tail toward Noah's location. The young man dodged skillfully and activated the first form of his divine style, preparing a finishing blow with the blinding light of shadow and glow. The young master's mystical sword gathered a massive amount of power. Noah lunged straight into the monster's wide-open jaws, which was trying in vain to crush his divine charge. He let out a battle cry, executing a divine, thrusting strike that pierced right through his opponent's armored scales. The blade's tip channeled and released the full combined energy, exploding right in front of the opponent's chest. A brilliant beam of purple and gold light cut through the cave, spectacularly obliterating the lizard. The young man landed skillfully while the sanctuary floor continued to crack from the massive power generated. The defeated corpse of the purple sharp-horned lizard collapsed lifelessly onto the ground, sealing a decisive victory. Noah checked to see if she was hurt, but Liliana said she was fine and insisted on leaving before the cave collapsed. They ran side by side while the hero seized the opportunity to grab the legendary sword stuck in the stone pedestal. With a firm grip, the young man grabbed the golden hilt, which was radiating purple light above the rock. Noah held the mystical dragon's sword high, joyfully confirming he had obtained a powerful dispersal tool. The young man agreed with his companion and told them to quickly leave this dangerous place before it caved in. On the horizon, dragon-riding warriors flew across the sky of Draconia, maintaining their watch over the kingdom. Noah handed a mysterious letter to Liliana, making the young girl quite curious about the paper's contents. The young man smiled and explained that he was fulfilling his promise to introduce her to Knight Commander Adelbal. Liliana was overjoyed by the gift and enthusiastically thanked Noah for all his help. The young girl ran off full of excitement to meet the commander while the protagonist waved goodbye to her. Afterward, Noah walked calmly toward the entrance of a bustling local tavern. The hero entered the tavern looking for someone while guests chatted merrily at their tables. The waiter approached and told Noah that a mysterious guest was waiting for him inside. Noah was surprised by the news and wondered who the mysterious guest in this place could be. The blond young man named Keys waved from afar upon spotting the hero, showing great familiarity with him. Noah approached and curiously asked what his older brother was doing here. Keys handed him a sealed envelope and said all the important details of the investigation were written inside. Their intelligent ally, Eve, had investigated deeply into the sphere of 8 treasures right after Noah contacted her. Keys yawned widely while the hero read that the dangerous artifact had recently been stolen from a neighboring kingdom. The culprit had fled toward Draconia, indicating this relic was intended to be used in the upcoming war. The report sent a grave warning about the untold dangers of using such a powerful mystical item. The document clearly stated that the sphere's power was destructive and capable of wiping an entire city off the map. The terrifying mystical magic known as Falling Star had the potential to cause unprecedented destruction. Noah carefully read the details on the paper. Noah gasped in shock as he realized this was the exact magic that had destroyed Draconia in his past life. The message concluded with a warning that she had dispatched Keys to assist and demanded the young man return safely from his mission. The blond young man explained that besides assisting, he wanted to observe the Dragon Knight's combat style up close. He smiled and said, "This is a great deal," and the young master sincerely thanked his older brother for the support. Suddenly, the tavern door was slammed open, drawing the attention of everyone inside. Liliana appeared looking extremely furious, dragging a panicked Commander Adelbalt right behind her into the room. The female bard pointed at Noah, shouting in rage that this situation was not what they had agreed upon. She slammed the table, screaming that the warrior was already married and she would never agree to get intimately involved with a married man. All the patrons in the tavern were utterly shocked by the girl's outrageous revelation. Noah tried to hide his embarrassment as he realized he had completely forgotten that the commander was married. The commander also apologized awkwardly, asserting he would never betray his beloved wife. Noah tried to reassure Liliana, promising to find another single candidate for her. However, Liliana fixed her gaze on the table and instantly fell in love upon noticing the presence of the blonde young man sitting there. Keys picked up on her weird reaction and completely panicked, having no idea what was going on. The songstress didn't hesitate to rush over and grab Key's arm, her eyes sparkling with pure passion. Liliana hugged him, declaring he was her exact type because he was so ripped and toned. Keys totally panicked at her bold moves and tried to struggle free, wondering what on earth was wrong with her. Noah just stood nearby laughing out loud, explaining that this blonde guy was the perfect ally he had promised to introduce. Liliana squeezed Key's arm so hard that the blonde hero felt utterly embarrassed right on the spot. The shameless girl asked him if he wanted to spend a romantic evening with her, leaving the blonde guy completely horrified. He pushed her away, his face turning beet red with embarrassment, and shouted at her not to talk about intimate things so casually. Keys begged Noah for help, but the protagonist just laughed out loud and said the songstress could do whatever she wanted with his brother. The hero gave a thumbs up and cheerfully declared that his promise to the songstress had been fulfilled. Keys tried to push Liliana off, but the girl clung tight to his neck with terrifying strength and determination. He pushed her cheek away while the songstress happily reassured him that from now on, she would be under his care. The blonde guy yelled in anger that he had never agreed to this crazy deal, desperately trying to break free from her embrace. He took a massive leap to escape, running for his life from her relentless pursuit. Liliana screamed as he ran away, while the protagonist watched the whole chaotic scene play out with huge amusement. The blonde guy said seriously that he would forward all of Eve's crucial findings straight to the Dragon King. Noah agreed and assured him he would do his absolute best while his brother was temporarily away. Before leaving, the older brother gave a stern warning not to push himself too hard in such a tough battle. He warned that the terrifying Ogre King was a massive opponent whose power level matched their father's. Keys ran desperately to escape while Liliana screamed, telling him to wait for her. Noah acted quickly and grabbed Liliana's clothes to keep her from chasing after his blonde brother. The hero advised that they didn't have time to chase his brother at such a critical moment, revealing they were about to infiltrate the enemy ogre army's dangerous main base. Liliana looked at the massive village with concern and asked if he was really planning to attack the place with just the two of them. The guy explained that their true goal was to destroy the sphere of 8 treasures, not to start an all-out war. Despite hearing her teammates' logical explanation, the songstress was still pretty worried about his plan. She asked how on earth they were going to slip past the heavy monster guard presence in the village. Noah suddenly scooped Liliana up into his arms, confidently commenting that ogres were very slow creatures. The protagonist focused powerful lightning magic into his boots to maximize his speed. Holding the girl in his arms, Noah smiled and reassured her that they would zip past the guards like a bolt of lightning. The hero charged forward at high speed, leaving behind only a mystical trail of light on the stone stairs. The pair dashed through the entire monster village at an insane speed, giving the enemy no time to react. An ogre guard felt a gentle breeze and a mysterious light brush right past his position. He panicked as he realized a blurry golden streak was rushing toward the base's main gate. But before he could raise the alarm, his head was clean chopped off. It fell right at the feet of another guard, causing him to instantly panic when he realized they were under attack. Before getting beheaded, he managed to scream out a warning to the others. Noah realized the guards had spotted their infiltration, but Liliana told him not to worry about the small details. The songstress proudly revealed that she had cast a sound-muffling barrier, silencing every noise in the area. Noah smiled and praised the awesome skill of his ally, who always proved to be extremely useful in battle. Thanks to the barrier, the other ogres remained at their posts, completely oblivious to the ongoing infiltration. Liliana asked her companion if he knew exactly where the monster keeping the powerful artifact was. Noah replied that the mystical item was definitely hidden in the deepest area where the tribe's supreme leader resided. The hero recalled that in his past life, Fungus was just a coward who always allied himself with the strongest side. The guy concluded that if this criminal was involved with the ogres, the precious sphere would definitely be guarded there. The two finally landed on the stone floor, ready to begin the most dangerous part of their infiltration. They stopped in front of the massive gates of the main fortress, which radiated an evil, terrifying energy. Very carefully, The pair cracked open a gap in the large wooden doors to observe the dark hall inside. Noah signaled that the coast was clear, and the two quietly began heading down the interior stairs. The heavy doors automatically shut with a low thud, locking the two young intruders inside the lava temple. They ran quickly toward the center of the massive underground temple. Noah spotted a glowing altar and told his ally that he had finally found the legendary sphere they had been searching for all this time. However, the protagonist suddenly froze as he felt an overwhelming hostile presence appear behind them. The hero immediately swung his sword backward, but no one was there. The guy realized that a presence was hiding in the hall that he hadn't detected before being attacked. Just then, a voice echoed from behind, revealing that Fungus had been right. The hero was stunned by his opponent's speed, as he had acted the exact moment he turned around in the hall. A giant red ogre stepped into view, holding the glowing artifact in his claws, and commented that he hadn't expected any intruders. The imposing warrior praised the guy's ability to slip past all the guards in complete silence. Noah readied himself for battle, knowing that taking on this giant monster would be no easy task for them. The enemy leader radiated a dark aura and threateningly confessed that he despised cowardly tricks in combat. Noah and Liliana took their battle stances, confidently drawing their swords, the blades glowing with a powerful, majestic purple energy. The giant ogre general, Gazel, roared in fury, promising to crush the two intruders with his bare hands. The terrifying ogre General Gazel radiated overwhelming dark energy, looking down at the two young intruders. Facing imminent danger, Noah quickly activated his mystical appraisal skill to inspect the enemy. The system began processing the information, but the opponent's physical stats were hidden. Noah was utterly stunned to read that the physical resistance of this powerful ogre general was simply off the charts. Sweat rolled down the young master's face as he realized he was about to face a completely absurd opponent. The guy decided to charge in with everything he had and told Liliana to destroy the precious artifact. As soon as he could step back with a battle cry, the hero struck the giant monster's chest with the full force of his mystical sword. Noah gave it his all, but felt a horrifying physical resistance as he tried to pierce through the ogre's armored skin. The strike didn't even make the giant flinch, and he mocked the hero, saying his attack was as weak as an insect. Gazel laughed at human fragility and struck Noah, sending the guy flying backward onto the ground with terrifying force with a simple, humiliating flick of his wrist. The ogre general repelled the young warrior's attack. The impact of the hit launched Noah through the air, slamming him hard against the hall. A massive cloud of dust exploded across the underground temple, emphasizing the monster's brute strength. The guy leaned against the stone floor, gasping for air as he tried to catch his breath. After the terrifying impact, a terrible crash echoed as Gazel's giant stone club smashed into the ground near the protagonist. The terrifying monster leaped forward with his club raised high, laughing loudly and proudly declaring that this was a real weapon. The general's club came crashing down with fury, but was stopped at the last second by a brilliant golden energy shield. Liliana held her spellbook open, channeling all her mana to maintain the divine defensive barrier. Gazel found this test of pure physical strength entertaining and increased the pressure on the songstress's shield. The ogre general tightened his grip on the handle of his massive stone club, focusing even more destructive power into it. The monster's immense force crushed the barrier, sending terrifying cracks spiderwebbing across the golden structure. Liliana began to falter from the strain and screamed desperately for her teammate. And the general let out a savage grin as he realized the shield of light was about to shatter completely. The mystical shield exploded into 1,000 shards, releasing a violent wave of destructive energy throughout the hall. However, the monster's attack was still blocked by the protagonist's divine power. The ogre was surprised to see that the hero had stopped his final blow even after the barrier broke. Seizing the opening, Noah lunged forward, executing a diagonal slash in an attempt to wound his opponent's chest. Liliana backed off to a safe distance and anxiously asked her teammate if he was truly okay. Noah admitted that he was really struggling and was amazed by the sheer destructive power of just a single attack from the enemy. The guy warned sternly that they stood no chance of winning if they kept fighting head-on. With a look of determination, the young master planned to use an alternate tactic to outmaneuver his opponent. He decided to gamble on a risky strategy, scattering special fragments across the stone floor. Noah asked Liliana to coordinate precisely with the plan, and the songstress prepared to cast her magic. The guy threw his magic sword toward his opponent as a temporary decoy in the fight. Liliana summoned divine judgment, unleashing an impressive rain of golden spears of light from the ceiling. Noah ran at top speed beneath the storm of light spears, aiming for the ogre general's blind spot. Gazel laughed confidently, roaring that such weak attacks would never defeat him. With a quick sweep of his club, the monster easily shattered the light spears created by the saintess. The songstress bit her lip in fear, realizing her strongest move hadn't dealt any real damage. Noah activated his divine power technique, concentrating an intense, brilliant golden aura in his hand. At the hero's command, the scattered fragments began to levitate and glow brightly. The guy unleashed holy fiend flying swords, catching the giant monster completely off guard with a strike. Noah shouted convincingly, warning that the monster would have nowhere to hide from his combined power. A massive pillar of golden light and lightning struck Gazel, destroying everything around him in a fury. The ogre general's eyes flashed with unwavering killer intent. Despite taking the full brunt of the spell, the monster still charged through the blinding light with pure hatred, swinging his stone club to tear through the air and crush the intruder. Noah didn't back down and decided to face the giant head-on. Running toward the enemy, the guy braced his body, focusing all his remaining mental energy into his right leg. The hero delivered a powerful kick, summoning a massive magic circle that struck Gazel right on the chin. Noah fell backward after landing the hit, but quickly used the air to regain his combat balance. The hero quickly pointed his index finger, launching the mystical sword toward the enemy's floating target. The blade flew fast and struck the energy sphere guarded by the ogre general inside the hall. Noah gritted his teeth in anger and shouted at the top of his lungs for the powerful artifact to be destroyed once and for all. The attack hit the artifact's core, creating glowing cracks and triggering a massive chain reaction. Waves of golden energy and lightning began escaping from the damaged sphere, on the verge of exploding in fury. Gazel reached out, trying to contain the terrifying reaction of the treasure. As the violent explosion threw the hero backward, a blinding, destructive light engulfed both warriors' vision, signaling the trigger of a massive detonation. A colossal explosion shook the temple's stone structure, sending terrifying heat waves everywhere. The destructive impact swept across the entire ogre village, sending the monsters into a panic at the massive amount of energy released into the air. The pair was enveloped in a golden hexagonal shield to protect them from dangerous debris. Liliana breathed a sigh of relief, believing they had won. But Noah warned her sternly not to drop her guard. A savage laugh echoed through the flames, revealing that the ogre general had survived the terrifying blast. Gazel emerged imposingly from the smoke, mocking the attack and calling the explosion nothing more than a fun little joke. An army of ogres rushed toward the two heroes as they realized the danger of getting surrounded. The hero prepared to make a nimble retreat, knowing that facing the entire army would be pure madness. A massive stone pillar collapsed, smashing through the stone floor as the monsters tried to crush their escape route. And suddenly, a giant dragon flew across the red sky. Noah smiled as he recognized the mythical creature. Keys appeared riding the mythical beast and hurriedly reached out his hand, shouting for his younger brother to climb up quick. Noah picked Liliana up into his arms once again and made a quick getaway before the enemies could catch up. Pillars of stone rising up from everywhere served as stepping stones for the protagonist to leap into the air. High up in the sky, Noah analyzed and observed the battlefield, planning the next steps of their journey. On the ground, Gazel laughed savagely, holding the shattered sphere while radiating a dark aura and terrifying murder attempt. The treasure's mystical sphere seemed to have spiraled out of control, proving that Noah's plan had indeed succeeded. Noah focused his glowing purple eyes toward the horizon, aware that the battle in this region was only just beginning. The red dragon flew toward the sunset, carrying the two young heroes safely back to the kingdom of Draconia. In the meeting room, the dragon generals were surprised to see Noah return alive and asked about the artifact. Noah explained that he had dealt a critical blow that caused the artifact's power to go out of control, reducing its usage limit. Keyes commented with satisfaction that thanks to this, the military situation of the Draconia kingdom had improved significantly. Suddenly, a messenger ran into the meeting room, shouting that he had an urgent report. The dragon commander panicked upon hearing that the entire ogre army had launched an invasion at the border. Noah remained calm and asserted that everything was going according to plan, since the ogres wanted to end the war before the artifact weakened further. The hero promised to put an end to the conflict before the venerable dragon lord's life came to an end. On the horizon, General Gazel led the relentless ogre army, with a savage grin on his face. The female mage raised her hand, and a brilliant golden light radiated from the spellbook in her grip. A blessing spell enveloped all the soldiers, boosting the strength of the allied forces. Buffed with increased power, the lizard warriors suddenly became fiercer and more terrifying than ever. A red demon took a critical hit and collapsed immediately. In the heat of the battlefield, Keyes and the blonde guy charged straight into enemy lines on horseback. The blonde guy shouted that he would clear the path, and Noah just needed to stay close behind. Deep down, Noah was still searching for traces of the other two commanders who had yet to show themselves. The blonde guy began casting, and a blue magic circle appeared right on his hand. A stone spear shot forward, knocking away all obstacles to clear a path for them. Not stopping there, he activated Lightning Suit, turning himself into a walking mass of electricity. With a confident smirk, it was obvious a spectacular show was about to unfold. He waved his hand, guiding the lightning-infused rock forward. The rock shot straight toward the demon army at terrifying speed. Right then, two demons stepped out to block the massive stone. Seeing this, Keyes merely let out a cold laugh. "Blow up," he said, clenching his fist. A blinding explosion burst forth, swallowing up those who dared stand in their way. The force of the attack kicked up a thick dust cloud, and a huge section of the battlefield was engulfed in electricity. Red demons lay scattered all over the ground. Dead or alive, it was hard to tell. Noah spurred his horse into a fast gallop right through the rubble, pushing deeper into enemy territory. The lizard army eagerly charged forward, cheering and surging like a wave behind Noah. Noah swung his blade, cutting down any demon in his path with an unrelenting rhythm. The red demon army began to panic, calling for everyone to rally their forces to deal with this human. Noah's eyes locked onto the red demon commander, who was standing arrogantly up ahead. A brilliant purple slash cut across, clearing out the infantry surrounding the commander. He spurred his horse to leap high, preparing to deliver a powerful opening strike. As he closed in, he immediately leaped off his horse toward the commander. Noah got into position, his sword radiating an overwhelming purple and golden light. The blade struck the demon's thick hide, sending sparks flying in all directions. A sharp slash tore open the giant's chest, taking him completely by surprise. Noah frowned slightly and nodded. This guy was tougher and sturdier than he had expected. The red demon commander gritted his teeth in rage, his eyes locked onto the tiny intruder with pure hatred. He ordered his minions to surround him, but Noah remained cold and calm. The demon swung his massive spiked club, roaring in contempt at Noah's abilities. Noah looked at him as if he were the perfect subject to test the new technique he had just learned. A list of techniques appeared, and Noah began channeling the third awakening of his divine power. Holy Fiend Fish Slash. The sword stabbed straight into the demon commander's chest, yet the tip of the blade barely pierced the demon's chest without causing much damage. This made the commander gloat, and he swung his weapon right at the protagonist. However, at that exact moment, a smirk spread across Noah's face as he whispered, "It's over." The very next instant, the commander's head suddenly began to glow. Then his entire body swelled up like a balloon being blown to its absolute limit. In the end, it exploded outright, sending several nearby demons flying. Noah stood there looking completely unfazed by the blast. The remaining red demons froze in sheer terror, witnessing their leader get taken down in the blink of an eye. Noah blew a sharp whistle, his cold eyes sweeping over the remnants of the army. The sound of his whistle drew everyone's attention across the battlefield. Noah held the commander's bloody horn high and loudly proclaimed their victory. Morale surged among the lizard army as they charged out to hunt down the fleeing enemy. Still, Noah felt a lingering sense of unease, wondering why the famous Oni tribe was this weak. He kept plowing deep into the enemy lines, clearing out the remaining stubborn demons. The red demons shrieked in desperation as Noah's silhouette passed through like a deadly gust of wind. Afterward, Noah picked out a high vantage point and carefully surveyed the entire battlefield. Even though the lizard side seemed to have the upper hand, doubts still nagged at Noah's mind. He began to realize that this was nothing more than decoy bait. His purple eyes hardened as suspicion of a much bigger conspiracy started to build up. The real masterminds hadn't shown themselves yet, which meant their actual target lay somewhere else. Draconia! Noah screamed in horror as the realization hit that the Dragon City was under attack. Looking down at the battlefield below from the cliff, he realized this was the only way back. Unable to wait a second longer, Noah decided to carve out the shortest path himself to save Draconia. Meanwhile, another army of red demons was secretly infiltrating the Draconia mountain range. The entire city was now engulfed in a sea of flames, with corpses scattered everywhere. Naturally, General Gazel was there too, impressed that they had used a precious gem to obliterate an entire mountain. Master Fungus was truly a brilliant strategist, and hearing that praise made Fungus smile triumphantly, boasting that crushing the lizards was as easy as flipping a hand. Just as the two were walking forward, a lizard soldier's hand suddenly grabbed tightly onto his leg. He muttered weakly, trying to hold the monster back. However, Gazel simply lifted his leg in silence and kept walking without missing a beat. Fungus turned back to look at him with a mockingly disdainful glare. Then he snapped his fingers to cast a fire spell, creating flames that burned the lizard soldier's body to ashes. As expected, trash should just be burned away, he said with a laugh, while Gazel advised, "You should save your mana. After all, the real battle is about to begin." The giant monster pulled his leg back and kicked open the front door in front of him, then let out a booming laugh and said, "Let's put an end to this, Dragon King." Standing right before him was the Dragon King of the entire race, fully prepared for battle. He roared, "For the atrocities you have committed against my people, pay tenfold 10,000 times in death." Dragon King Arkados stood tall, directly facing the demon warrior, while Seal quietly observed from behind. The demon warrior began flexing his power, a glowing crimson aura enveloping his muscular body. The Dragon King roared as golden lightning crackled furiously around his majestic, pure white horns. Two mighty entities faced off, one radiating a dazzling golden light, the other a dense crimson aura. Without hesitation, the demon warrior charged straight ahead like a blazing red arrow. He swung his fist against the massive dragon claw, generating a shockwave that shook the entire valley. An explosion of energy burst right between the two sides, sending rocks and dirt blasting in every direction. The Dragon King leaned back to dodge the blow, his icy blue eyes staying locked onto his opponent. The demon warrior grabbed a massive boulder, his overwhelming presence dominating the battlefield. He swung a heavy strike, loudly questioning if that was all the power the Dragon King had to offer. The Dragon King countered with a powerful tail whip, golden lightning exploding through the air. The clash made the ground tremble violently as a thick cloud of dust enveloped a vast area. The Dragon King soared high into the air, a terrifying electrical field pulsing around his wings. Razor-sharp claws dug into the earth, ripping through the space around them as they tore past. The dragon's might reduced even solid stone mountains to crumbling pieces. The demon soldiers below fled in a panic from the catastrophic collapse of the valley. A bright white light burst from the epicenter of the blast, obliterating everything in sight. The Dragon King clenched his talons as golden lightning continued to dance threateningly around him. Enemy soldiers were tossed into the void among floating giant rocks. A massive mass of energy and earth came crashing down, crushing everything underneath. Arkados began gathering magic right in front of his chest, for a massive area of effect attack. Golden light exploded, swallowing the entire battlefield in a massive fireball. A sphere of light appeared, cracking violently under the terrifying pressure. It shattered into tiny shards, radiating scorching heat and a blinding glare. The demon warrior roared within the crimson aura as his power seemed to skyrocket. The Dragon King wondered silently to himself if his aging body had truly reached its absolute limit. Sensing the dire situation, Seal immediately activated flight magic to get out of the danger zone. He shot high up into the air, his calm eyes watching the grand battle unfolding down below. The demon warrior and the Dragon King faced off one last time, both gearing up for a final finishing strike. The demon warrior demanded the Dragon King surrender, saying the power gap between them was far too clear now. The Dragon King roared with ultimate pride, declaring he would never bow down to demons. The demon warrior's glare turned icy cold, knowing his opponent had chosen to fight to the death. He coldly declared that no more words were needed, his bloodlust thickening into a heavy fog around him. "I will crush the life out of you," the demon warrior bellowed, lunging forward at terrifying speed. The Dragon King unleashed his dragon breath, a beam of golden light incinerating everything in its path. The demon warrior charged straight into the dragon breath, defying the destructive heat just to close the distance. Two massive powers collided in midair, creating a glare that blinded the whole valley. He raised his strike high, letting out a sky-shaking roar before bringing it down. A direct punch slammed right into the Dragon King, completely shattering his final layer of defense. The Dragon King was blasted violently into the ground, leaving a long trail of golden light behind him. The demon warrior looked down at the rubble with the eyes of an absolute conqueror. A colossal pillar of golden light shot straight into the sky, marking the fall of the legendary Dragon King. Seal made a move to use healing magic, but the demon warrior stopped him and told him to fall back. He began gathering his maximum mana, a menacing crimson aura wrapping around his entire body. The demon warrior dove straight down into the valley engulfed in smoke, fire, and ruin. Looking at his demon army completely overwhelming the area, he coldly declared that the battle ended right here. A brilliant flare of golden and crimson light burst wildly from the demon leader's weapon. That sheer force formed a massive vortex of energy, ready to grind everything around it to dust. The demon warrior stared down at the Dragon King with glowing golden eyes. "Farewell, Dragon King." A crimson pillar of light struck down from above like an ultimate judgment upon the valley. The terrifying explosion formed a glowing red cross, tearing through the night sky. The flash from the blast was so blinding it could be seen from miles and miles away. The epicenter of the strike radiated a white-hot heat wave, burning away anything standing in its path. The ground beneath their feet completely caved in and cracked apart under the apocalyptic magic. Right at that moment, the Red Dragon General was leading a dragon battalion in a desperate rush toward the battlefield. He froze in shock upon seeing the giant crimson pillar of light rising from where his master was fighting. The entire dragon army charged madly toward the valley with a terrible gut feeling. The Red Dragon General screamed at the unit to speed up, terrified that the worst had already happened. When they arrived, they looked down in horror at a bottomless crater engulfed in dense smoke and dust. The demon warriors stood towering amid the wreckage, radiating the absolute authority of the victor. The Dragon King lay slumped on the ground with a strangely glowing star-shaped wound right in the middle of his chest. Enraged beyond belief, the Red Dragon General screamed, demanding to know what he had done to the Dragon King. He leaped off his dragon's back, swinging his massive battle axe as he charged straight at the demon warrior. A desperate battle cry tore through the air as he poured all his killer intent into a reckless attack. However, the demon warrior easily blocked the heavy axe chop with just one hand. The Red Dragon General was knocked backward, bracing himself in a defensive stance with eyes burning with fiery hatred. The demon leader coldly declared that the outcome of this battle had already been settled long ago. He offered to spare the dragon citizens' lives if they laid down their weapons right this instant. Suddenly, a strange purple magic circle manifested around the Dragon King's massive frame. Dark magic power billowed up into the air, signaling that a sinister plot was underway. Dragon King Arcados coughed up blood in agony as he felt the power being drained straight out of his body. A glowing golden crystal containing the core strength of the dragon was snatched away by a mysterious hand. Seal gasped in complete shock as he recognized the immensely crucial item. He hastily reached out to stop it, but the traitor had already made a clean escape with the core. The mysterious figure dashed off at insane speed with the treasure freshly ripped from the Dragon King's chest. The dragon core radiated an intoxicating light in the hidden figure's hand. The brown-haired stranger flashed a sinister smirk, having waited patiently for this exact moment. The Arcados core. Ultimate power is finally in my hands, he cheered triumphantly. The second he absorbed the core, pitch-black demon wings sprouted out, and his body began to undergo a massive transformation. "Don't you dare!" Seal shouted, instantly triggering his ultimate technique, Light Dark Flash, to stop him. A brilliant cross-shaped streak of light rained straight down from above onto the traitor's location. The ground shook violently once again following Seal's high-powered magic strike. He landed with razor-sharp eyes, magic still swirling furiously around his body. Yet the enemy had managed to draw a blade, crackling with powerful purple lightning in time. The brown-haired stranger stood tall against the burning sky, the Arcados core right in his chest glowing with blinding light, marking the birth of an entity of terrifying power. As he flashed an arrogant smirk, ready to use the purple lightning sword in his hand to crush anyone who dared get in his way. The 5 Grand Sword Masters who had rushed in to contain the situation were all slaughtered, a horrifying tragedy exposing the mastermind behind the scenes. Fungus hovered in the burning sky, while Xenon stood below in a defensive stance, ready for a fight to the death. Fungus chuckled with delight as he felt the new power surging through his body. The Red Demon Commander stood there with a sneaky grin, gloating at the sight of destruction. Noah's group, Liliana, and the Dragon Human General had also just arrived, horrified by the chaotic scene. Xenon stood amidst the smoke and debris, his resolute gaze fixed straight on the enemy. From up high, Fungus reached out his hand as yellow lightning began to gather around his claws. He decided to test his new power, forming a massive, deep red energy orb that emitted terrifying pressure. Countless missiles launched from the center of the orb, tearing through space as they plummeted toward the ground. Those arrows rained down on the demon army indiscriminately, hitting friend and foe alike. The entire battlefield was submerged in a sea of fire and thundering explosions. Projectiles pierced through the cliff walls, crushing everything in their path. Fungus looked down at the ruins with a satisfied smile, realizing this was the exact power he had always craved. The Red Demon Commander screamed in terror, completely bewildered as to why his master was attacking him too. But to Fungus, these henchmen had outlived their usefulness, so he coldly declared that they were no longer needed. He snapped his fingers with absolute disdain. The ground beneath the Red Demon exploded, hurling rocks and dirt into the air. The Red Demon screamed in agony as magical pressure crushed him among the rubble. Fungus's face twisted in madness as he swore to make those who had abandoned him suffer the same pain. This time, he would trample over everyone to assert his authority. Another devastating blow struck down, grinding the Red Demon into a deep pit. The once arrogant commander was now nothing more than a lifeless corpse amid the ruins. Fungus looked off into the distance, deciding his next goal would be the total destruction of both the dragon humans and the horse-racing demon tribe. Noah immediately cast the Great Rock Furious Flame spell, causing a brilliant blue magic circle to appear in the sky. A massive boulder plummeted from the heavens, looking to crush Fungus to pieces. Liliana followed up next with her sacred crystal treasury spell. Determined to take down the enemy, an emerald green crystal shot up from the ground, forming a pincer maneuver with Noah's boulder. Fungus merely uttered a contemptuous "oh" as he watched their combined attack. The two streams of magic collided violently at his position, creating an apocalyptic explosion. Yet Fungus blocked all that power simply by spreading his dragon wings. He funneled energy into his claws, effortlessly shattering their magical constructs. He smirked and coldly ordered everyone to get lost. A massive pillar of light erupted from Fungus's position, blowing everything away. With the Dragon King's power and supreme arcane knowledge, Fungus believed he was the strongest being in the world. Countless magic circles appeared behind him, unleashing a rain of light swords. Countless magic circles appeared behind him, unleashing a rain of light swords. Fungus gave his enemies no time to rest, immediately following up with a heavy punch aimed straight at Noah. As the light blades plunged into the ground, Noah could only race against death, dodging through a forest of swords in a desperate attempt to find an escape route by a hair's breadth. Watching the barrage of swords fall like a waterfall, Noah broke into a cold sweat. He swung his sword to parry the incoming blades, but the sheer volume gradually put him at a severe disadvantage. Noah tried to endure Fungus's sword rain, doing whatever it took to avoid getting slashed. He gritted his teeth and bore it, the pressure of the attack breaking him into a cold sweat once more. A massive black broadsword came crashing down, and though Noah tried to block it with his blade, the ground beneath his feet shattered. But the ground beneath his feet shattered. An overwhelming surge of energy threw Noah backward, letting out only a desperate scream before he flew. At the critical moment, the dragon human general rushed in and used his massive shield to cover Noah, enduring the deadly beams himself. Yellow lightning flashed wildly around the shield as Xenon's sword was knocked high into the sky, burning brightly amid the rain of swords. Xenon gasped in shock, his face filled with intense worry for his comrade. He looked up at Fungus hovering in midair, radiating a terrifying intent to kill. Xenon's eyes hardened. He knew he couldn't hesitate any longer, so he dashed forward like an arrow, dodging the purple lightning bolts that were tearing up the ground. Fungus smirked and reached out his hand, preparing to finish off his opponent. Fungus's sword rain poured down like a waterfall, forcing Xenon to weave through the narrowest gaps. Channeling all his mana into the twin sky slash, a burst of purple and gold light erupted around his sword. Xenon's holy art's eyes glowed, enabling him to see through every attack trajectory. Xenon swung his blade, shattering the surrounding light swords. A massive explosion went off nearby, but Xenon managed to escape the danger zone in time. Holding his ground against the rain of swords, Xenon felt his strength fading, but from behind him, Noah opened a large magic circle and shouted for Xenon to use it. Seizing the opportunity, Xenon darted through the forest of swords and charged straight at Fungus. Fungus didn't flinch at all, continuing to rain down a powerful barrage of crimson blades. Xenon reached out, deciding to bet everything on this final blow. A brilliant golden pillar of light enveloped Xenon, maxing out his speed. A giant sword of energy came crashing down, ripping through the night, causing Fungus's eyes to widen in shock. He hadn't expected his opponent to still have enough strength left for such a fierce counterattack. Liliana opened her spellbook and began chanting support magic for her ally, summoning a honeycomb-shaped barrier, the sacred light realm, that blocked Fungus's sword rain. Liliana yelled out, urging Xenon to finish the battle. Thanks to Liliana's support, Xenon tore through the barrage and charged straight for Fungus's heart. Xenon executed the light-dark flash, unleashing a blinding beam of light that swallowed the space around them. Fungus smirked, confident he had negated the technique, mockingly taunting his opponent as monkeys who never learn. An apocalyptic explosion occurred as the two energy sources collided. Xenon gritted his teeth, straining with all his might to push back against Fungus. The two were locked in a fierce struggle amidst the dust and smoke. Blades of light flew erratically, shredding everything in the combat area. The smirk on Fungus's face suddenly vanished. An uneasy feeling washed over him as a sharp blade flashed in a split second. Xenon zipped through the rain of crimson shards, closing in on Fungus at unimaginable speed, making Fungus scream in panic. He couldn't react in time to this sudden turn of events. A sickening thud echoed as Xenon drove his sword straight through Fungus's chest, leaving Fungus staring down at his wound in utter shock, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. The blade pierced right out of Fungus's back, putting an end to the traitor's power expansion. Xenon stood motionless, sword in hand, after taking down his enemy. Liliana watched him from behind with trusting eyes, while Xenon smiled in victory at Fungus's collapse, mockingly recalling his blind arrogance regarding dragon power. The valley battlefield shook violently, while down below, Noah and the dragon-human general could only stare in utter horror. Liliana held her spellbook, her eyes filled with concern, yet she calmly continued to support her teammate. On the ground lay the corpses of the white dragon Arcados and the red demon, motionless among the ashes of battle. Fungus screamed in pain as he felt his power slipping away. Xenon appeared right in front of him, firmly declaring that he had reclaimed Arcados' core, which Fungus had stolen. Fungus's eyes went wide, unable to believe his perfect plan had crumbled like this. Xenon swung his sword, decisively severing the dragon energy from the villain's body. He held the dragon realm sword high, explaining that it was a special treasure used to seal away dragon power. Fungus went completely ballistic, screaming and demanding his power back right that second. He lunged with his sharp claws, but now they were nothing more than helpless flailings. Just a flick of Xenon's wrist was enough to send Fungus crashing into the ground, cursing endlessly. Xenon looked down coldly, believing that the Dragon King's power was never something a creature like him could control. The massive rock Fungus had been standing on collapsed, sending a heavy shockwave through the ground. Xenon landed lightly amidst the rising dust, his sword still radiating an overwhelming aura. Fungus lay sprawled on the ground, clutching his bleeding wound, his eyes burning with hatred over being thwarted. He refused to accept defeat as a complex magic circle began to glow beneath his feet. In the sky, a series of magic arrays materialized, targeting Xenon's exact position. Deadly beams of light shot down like rain, determined to crush him in an instant. Xenon stood still, letting the attacks rush right past him. A massive explosion detonated right where he stood, kicking up a cloud of smoke and dust that obscured all vision. But as the smoke cleared, Xenon emerged wrapped in a radiant aura, unleashing a wave of magical pressure that filled Fungus with dread. The villain collapsed onto the ground, trembling before the overwhelming gap in power. Xenon delivered a decisive slash, sending a brilliant golden arc tearing through the air towards target. The sharp blade ripped open Fungus's chest, spraying fresh blood everywhere. Fungus was thrown far back, lying motionless on the dust-covered ground at dusk. Despite his severe injuries, he still managed a crafty grin, telling Xenon not to expect such an easy victory. Fungus attempted to activate a forbidden dark spell, swearing to drag the entire kingdom down to hell with him. A surge of deep purple magic erupted as Fungus accepted sacrificing his own life in exchange for one final blow. His face twisted in madness as he screamed for the power to consume him. A crimson pillar of light shot straight into the clouds, spawning a massive maelstrom of mana. The sky began to crack as red lightning pierced through the dark clouds. A massive astral rain array formed above, blotting out the sun itself. A vast mountainous area was shrouded in the deadly purple glow of the forbidden spell. Xenon's expression shifted slightly as he realized the scale of the attack far exceeded his expectations. Burning rocks from outer space began raining down into the valley. Horrific explosions echoed everywhere, and dust rose up to blot out the sky. Just then, a brilliant yellow honeycomb barrier materialized, shielding the central area from the falling meteors. The dragon-human general turned to Noah, confirming they still had time to deploy their defenses based on the intel Xenon had provided. Meteor fragments slammed violently against the protective barrier. Fungus lay in a pool of blood, laughing maniacally as the astral rain disaster began to devastate everything around. Both Liliana and Xenon looked up at the sky, where the real catastrophe still hung in precarious danger. A massive, flaming meteor tore through the clouds, plunging directly toward the fragile defenses below. Fungus laughed hysterically amidst the rain of fire, declaring that no one here would leave alive. The giant meteor was falling with unstoppable destructive force, his face smeared with blood, eyes filled with hatred and cold satisfaction as the image of annihilation drew near. Sure enough, the power of the astral rain was far too overwhelming, and in a split second, the defensive honeycomb barrier was crushed by the giant meteor. Dust billowed high into the air as the crushing pressure bore down on Noah and the dragon-human general standing below, making Noah scream in horror and urge everyone to run as he watched their last line of defense collapse. He couldn't believe the power was this terrifying, while the dragon-human general roared in rage and helplessness, wondering if they really had to abandon their country and flee. Noah gritted his teeth, knowing that if they were caught in the falling debris, they would all be reduced to ashes. Xenon stood there, his sword still glowing brightly, though he realized that with only his current Kamui core, he couldn't disperse this catastrophe on his own. In that critical moment, Liliana stepped forward and called Noah's name, having made a bold decision with resolute eyes, fully prepared to place all her faith and power in him. Liliana silently swore that she wouldn't let these lives wither away here, no matter the cost. Even if it meant losing her maiden power forever, she wouldn't regret it for a single second. Liliana threw her spellbook wide open as a radiant golden light began to envelop her body. A pillar of pure light shot straight into the sky, dispelling part of the darkness hovering over the battlefield. Within the blinding light, Liliana appeared in the solemn form of a high priestess, her eyes closed in prayer. Her body emitted a warm, powerful energy ready to be transferred. Liliana whispered for Xenon to accept this power. A tear trickled down her cheek amidst the glowing light as her maiden power flowed into Xenon, creating a shockwave that shook the ground. She told him that the rest was up to him before completely collapsing from exhaustion. Liliana's radiant soul rushed down and embraced Xenon in a hug of ultimate sacrifice and trust. The two opposing energy sources began to blend, triggering a blinding explosion of golden light at the center of the battlefield. The pressure from the resonance seemed to crush the space around them. Everything was swallowed in a dazzling golden hue as Liliana collapsed to the ground, completely unconscious after offering up all her life force. Xenon stood firm, surrounded by surging holy energy. He declared his acceptance of the entrusted power as the Kamui system interface appeared, confirming that a massive amount of holy power had been loaded and his power cap had officially been unlocked. Xenon clasped his hands in prayer, activating the ultimate technique known as Kamui form, absolute logic. His sword transformed into a giant blade of light, radiating power capable of ending the world. The star extinction move was ready, and Xenon's gaze turned cold and sharp. He focused his entire mind into this fateful slash. With a sky-shattering roar, he swung his sword straight at the descending giant meteor. The slash of light sped toward the heavens, violently colliding with the astral rain disaster in an earth-shaking explosion. A brilliant golden cut sliced right through the meteor's core, causing it to detonate into millions of pieces in midair. The blast pressure vaporized all the falling rocks, saving the valley from total destruction. Xenon floated in midair, his sword still emitting powerful purple and gold electric sparks after the strike. The sky gradually brightened as the astral rain catastrophe was completely dispelled by the divine slash, and Xenon slowly descended to the ground, his expression entirely calm despite having just performed a miracle. Around him, Liliana, Noah, and the dragon-human general were all safe, though still stunned by what they had just witnessed. Dusk settled over the dust-filled valley, marking the end of a brutal battle. Xenon stood looking around, softly declaring that it was finally over. Fungus lay unconscious among the rubble, completely defeated and pathetic after his last-ditch effort. Suddenly, a deep voice praised his glorious attack, calling him the successor to the power of Kamui. Xenon turned around in surprise as through the mist, the soul of the Dragon King Arkados emerged in all its majesty, staring at the young swordsman who had saved. Dragon King Arkados had collapsed onto the ground, and Seal slowly walked up to the dying Dragon King. Arkados' deep blue dragon eyes stared intently at the young man before him. The king called Seal the Sword of Daskul with deep respect. Seal's eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation as he looked at the legendary creature. Arkados' wounds were far too deep, it was likely too late to save him. Seal responded humbly, crediting the dragon-human tribe and Adelbart for the victory. But Arcados didn't see it that way, reaching out his claw to entrust the source of his power to him. He drew his sword, preparing himself for the crucial succession process. Out of nowhere, a glowing pink orb of energy materialized right above the sword. This was Arcados' core, the very thing that contained the terrifying power of the Dragon King. He suddenly recalled his past life, when this core had been corrupted and forced to be destroyed. The memory of humanity's immense military loss back then remained deeply burned into his mind. But things were different this time. Because the battle ended early, the Dragon Core retained its purity. Everything was going exactly according to the plan he had mapped out from the start. By accelerating the battle, he had preserved the ultimate power needed to face future invaders. Arcados began transferring energy directly from the core into him. A surge of brilliant golden light erupted, enveloping them both amidst the ruined valley. He focused intensely, preparing to absorb the massive wave of energy pouring in. The core had now turned into a flawless golden sphere, hovering in midair. The Dragon King was astonished by the young man's foresight. He decided to place his trust in him and hand over all his remaining power. For his own children, this source of power was far too heavy a burden to carry. The old Dragon King's eyes shone with absolute confidence in his successor. He affirmed that only someone who possessed the divine core truly needed this power, and Seal bowed his head, accepting the heavy responsibility left behind by the Dragon King. Arcados smiled in relief, looking at the continent's new hero. The brilliant golden core slowly merged directly into his chest. The Dragon King's massive body began to gradually dissolve into particles of light. Those glowing rays radiated like the final farewell of a legend. The system notified that the succession was successful, causing his stats to skyrocket to a whole new level. Seal felt the Dragon King's power surging inside him as luminous horns began to take shape on his head. Adelbart rushed over from a distance, shouting his master's name in utter despair. He froze in his tracks, horrified as he witnessed the Dragon King slowly fading away before his eyes. Arcados used his last breath to call out the name of his most loyal retainer. That was when he issued his final order to the Dragon-Human General. Adelbart listened in silence, his eyes welling up with tears. He dropped to his knees, swearing to fulfill whatever the Dragon King desired. Looking toward the Dragon-Human soldiers helping each other walk in the back of the valley, Arcados instructed him to focus all their efforts on restoring Draconia. Adelbart burst into tears, promising he would definitely fulfill this great wish. The massive silhouette of the Dragon King faded away completely into the air, bringing an end to a legendary era. Dragon King Arcados passed away satisfied, having successfully passed his will on to the next generation. He departed in peace after witnessing his children grow up strong and steady. Amidst the cracked land, a tiny sprout began to bud, symbolizing a brand new beginning. The sacrifice of the old king will serve as the foundation for a glorious future for the Dragon-Human race. With nothing left to regret, the old king's spirit dissolved into the deep blue sky, officially handing off all remaining responsibilities to Seal. The scene at Draconia drew to a close, opening up a demanding new chapter back at the Doskwell Manor. Seal returned to face his powerful father and report everything that had transpired. He stood in the main hall, recounting the battle and the elimination of the S-rank criminal. He didn't forget to mention the newly forged friendly relations with the Dragon-Human race either. Lord Noah fell silent, formally acknowledging the death of Dragon King Arcados. The passing of a legend made the atmosphere in the hall grow even heavier. Standing before the throne, Seal maintained his usual calm composure. Noah locked eyes with his son, trying to search for the truth behind his words. He praised the achievement of saving the land of Draconia, which was no small feat. Even so, Noah still expressed skepticism about Seal inheriting the dragon's power. Instantly, he extended his hand, preparing to unleash a strike to test Seal's true strength. A dense surge of deep purple magic pressure exploded outward, enveloping the entire room. Seal stood tall amidst the storm, his eyes devoid of fear before his father's overwhelming aura. This power was so immense that the surrounding knights began to feel suffocated. Noah showed no mercy, intending to use raw mana to force his son into revealing his true nature. The entire main hall shook violently under the Lord's terrifying pressure. Unable to stand idle any longer, Seal began to draw upon the newly acquired power of the Dragon King. A radiant golden aura flared brightly as wings and horns of light materialized behind his back. Noah froze for a brief moment upon seeing his son standing firm against his prestige. The two forces of purple and gold clashed head-on, creating a horrifying spectacle. Seal stood proudly amidst the surge of mana, proving he had completely mastered his new power. The pressure was so intense that cracks began to snake across the nearby stone pillars. Unable to bear the pressure, a knight nearby fell to his knees on the floor in agony. Witnessing this scene, Kyle couldn't help but feel utterly shocked by Seal's explosive growth. Noah clenched his armored fist, sensing the undeniable truth right before his eyes. Arcs of mana crackled in midair as neither father nor son refused to give an inch. The entire hall lay in ruins under the devastation caused by the family's two ultimate forces. Noah let out a mysterious smile, seemingly having found the answer to his suspicion. Seal maintained his Dragon King form, ready for whatever situation came next. At this moment, Noah ordered Kyle to quickly evacuate all soldiers from the main hall area. Reaching out to grip his massive magic sword, Noah's dense purple mana erupted furiously once more. Unsheathing his sword, Noah made his intentions unmistakably clear. He wanted to personally test his son's capabilities through a direct duel. Seal drew his sword as well, his dragon horns glowing brightly as he prepared to face his powerful father. In the middle of the vast training hall, the two men of the Doskull family faced off, getting ready for a true battle of skills while Knight Kyle watched from afar, unable to hide his grim expression. Breaking into a cold sweat, Kyle's face was extremely tense as he felt the suffocating atmosphere enveloping the room, silently muttering to himself that this earth-shattering battle had finally begun. Seal took a deep breath as the surge of mana around him began to fluctuate violently. Noah remained standing like a majestic mountain, his cold purple eyes watching his son's every move. Seal decided to go all out to test his new power, immediately releasing the Dragon King's authority as radiant golden energy wings and horns materialized. Seal's gaze turned razor-sharp as he silently borrowed the divine dragon Arkados' aura for his opening strike. Stamping his foot down hard, he generated a surge of golden fire that swirled beneath his heel. Dashing forward like a flash of lightning, Seal delivered an overhead slash, but Noah calmly raised his sword to block it without flinching. Noah's magic sword vibrated upon direct impact with Seal's power-packed blade. The clash of two mighty forces caused sparks of electricity to spray across the air. A giant pillar of light erupted right at the point of collision, sending shockwaves reverberating through the training hall. The stone pillar cracked under the terrible pressure as Noah was secretly amazed to see Seal manipulate the Dragon King's power so skillfully. Pushed back a few steps, Seal looked surprised by his father's rock-solid stance. Noah smirked, praising that last strike wasn't half bad. Seal instantly regained his stance, his eyes glowing brightly as he prepared for the next wave of attacks. Moving at breakneck speed, he created a series of golden afterimages surrounding Noah. Narrowing his eyes, Noah calmly tracked his opponent's every minor movement. He launched a lightning-fast counterattack as surging purple mana flared brilliantly. The impact blew Seal backward, sending the ground under his feet exploding into fragments. Seal flipped through the air and landed gracefully on his golden wings, his eyes still filled with shock while across the room, Noah's sword radiated an oppressive purple glow. Extending his hand forward, Noah activated a terrifying power that distorted the surrounding space. Seal felt his body weight skyrocket as the golden mana around him was suppressed to the point of near extinction. The terrifying gravitational pressure smashed the stone floor beneath Noah's feet, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. Noah glared authoritatively, leaving Seal inwardly horrified as he realized his father could manipulate gravity itself. The entire training hall shook violently under Noah's deep purple gravity field, forcing Seal down to the floor, barely able to keep his balance. Gritting his teeth, Seal sweated profusely as he struggled to withstand the 1,000-pound weight. His feet sank deep into the rubble as purple mana wrapped around his legs like heavy chains. Standing like a deity, Noah controlled the gravity field to smother every ounce of Seal's resistance. Seal channeled energy into his chest magic core, trying to find a way to break free from these invisible shackles. He was stunned to see his Dragon King authority crushed so effortlessly beneath his father's feet. Noah spoke in a cold tone, criticizing Seal's control as far too poor and calling him unworthy of claiming he had mastered this power. Provoked by the words, Seal roared and exploded a massive amount of golden mana to break the gravity field, asking his father how he liked this move. Seal shot forward like an arrow of light, piercing right through the distorted space. A barrage of brilliant golden light beams blasted toward Noah from every direction. Noah maintained his expressionless face, his sparkling purple eyes tracking the incoming light beams. Closing the distance, Seal swung his sword in a full power strike that condensed all his mana. The explosion of golden and purple energy merged together, completely destroying the surrounding floor between them. Noah secretly admired how Seal not only blocked the attack, but also knew how to deflect the impact force into the ground to reduce damage, noting that the dragon's power had helped his son expand his fighting style. The crushing force gouged a deep crater into the earth, with thick smoke rising beneath their feet. Seal soared high into the air to escape the residual shockwave, while Noah stood firm in the center of the pit with a composed posture. Night Kyle ran for his life in absolute terror to avoid becoming an unfortunate casualty of this crazy sparring match. Watching from above, Night Kyle couldn't hide his amazement at the far superior level Seal was displaying compared to before. In the middle of the training hall, Noah and Seal still faced off, surrounded by the brilliant mana surges of the Dragon King state. Noah silently observed his son, knowing full well this was definitely not his limit. Seal immediately executed a combo sequence of divine sword arts, ranging from earth-severing strike to holy demon explosion, creating a grand spectacle. With his matured magic core, Seal felt confident launching multiple high-level techniques simultaneously without any difficulty. A burst of golden energy erupted as Noah directly blocked the powerful combination strike. Brilliant golden light trails bombarded Noah's position fiercely, sending dirt and stone fragments flying everywhere. However, Noah stood as firm as a rock, the purple mana around him flaring up even more intensely to retaliate. The head of the Doskull family activated a solid hexagonal mana shield, easily neutralizing every attack trajectory from Seal. Noah coldly pointed out Seal's weakness was attacking too head-on, even as Seal kept searching for the smallest opening. Suddenly, Noah thrust his hand out, condensing dense purple mana into a terrifying pressure right in his palm. A lightning-fast counterblow blasted Seal up into the air, causing him to completely lose the initiative mid-fight. Refusing to give up, Seal shouted and poured all his strength into a decisive downward strike from above. His blade crashed violently against Noah's defense, generating a terrifying shockwave that shook the entire building. The blinding energy explosion tore through the air, obscuring the vision of everyone present in the training hall. As the smoke slowly cleared, Noah was still standing tall, his sword neatly returned to its sheath. Seal stood dumbfounded as he realized his father had neutralized his full power strike using nothing but the raw power of his magic core. He stared at Noah in silence, inwardly admiring the strength of the man dubbed the strongest swordsman in human history. Though still stunned, Seal resumed his stance to prepare another technique of the divine sword arts. However, he suddenly paused when he noticed signs that Noah wanted to end the match right here. Noah officially declared the duel over, leaving Seal with no choice but to lower his weapon in bewilderment. He calmly sheathed his blade as the tense atmosphere gradually subsided with every breath they took. Disappointed, Seal asked if everything he had worked so hard to show still wasn't enough to satisfy his father. Noah looked at him sternly and affirmed that at his current level, he was still far from reaching his tier. However, he pulled out a letter sealed with red wax and declared that Seal had earned enough qualification to receive it. Seal was utterly shocked to see the writing on the letter. It was an invitation from the demon king himself. Noah elaborated that this was the ruler of the mysterious and terrifying demon continent, revealing a family secret that the Dashkul house had been closely connected to the demon royal dynasty for generations. Seal asked in confusion why his father decided to hand over such an important item to him at a time like this. Standing tall in the center of the hall, Noah stated that the demon king never cared for the weak, and receiving the letter meant Seal had caught his eye. He instructed Seal to prepare to set out to uncover the hidden secrets that lay ahead. Noah spoke about the truth regarding the invaders targeting this world and the fateful bond shared across generations of swordsmen. Seal sank into deep thought, his face filled with unwavering determination before the massive responsibility he had just been given. In his mind flashed horrifying images of war and corpses strewn across the battleground. He even saw the image of a purple-haired girl weeping, softly calling Xenon's name in utter despair. Bursts of crimson mana and dark shadows emerged, signaling the dangers awaiting him on the demon continent. Seal gripped the letter firmly in his hand, his heart surging with resolve to uncover the full truth behind it all. Under the blood-red sky, Seal gazed toward the horizon, ready to embark on his destined journey to seek the truth about the invaders.